So anybody have something to add to what Owen's question was? Because I think it's a very important question. And if not, let's move on to another question.
Um,
Yes.
if I could, Alan, I just on the note of sort of a practical element, I've been absolutely desperate to ask you what your contact with the church in Stratford is and where things lie with regards to the, unveiling, the great unveiling.
Okay. Well, it's a church. Need I say more? I went there on this vigil. I spent 6 weeks there praying at the altar, and I have no other way of saying it. I'm just going to be truthful. I was lied to by the church as to their intentions. They said they would gladly consider opening that altar stone. And this is the first time I'm making this public, so I will make it public. Well, it's not public, it's in our private group. And so actually I need to, well, I just don't want it out there that I'm bad-mouthing the church, because I need to have a good relationship with them. But it's already been fouled up sufficiently by the fact that there is just enormous dishonesty there. So, okay, I'm just waffling because I'm not sure whether to say this clearly or not. So I'm going
Sorry
to
to
say
put you on the spot.
no. It's important, and it's all perfect anyway. Yeah, I scanned their altar. Naughty boy. I went there a couple of years ago to say to them, whether you like it or not, I'm the guy that did it. You probably know that already. But I really, really have your good reputation and your good heart at heart. You have a chance to show the world something utterly magnificent, and show them the true story about who Shakespeare was, and the fact that the man from Stratford, Shakespeare, is not the buffoon that he's been made out to be, and he's not the person who stole the true story from the true writer. He's part of the story, and the story is this: there's a mask, and there's the truth hidden behind that mask. And the truth is de Vere, and de Vere means truth, and Vere itself means truth in Latin, and de Vere means the Holy of Holies, and it's hiding behind a mask, because it has to hide behind a mask, because all scriptures tell us the kingdom of God is within you, but it's hidden. I mean, it's the same story of any scripture, right? And so it's not that someone stole his information and said, oh, I'm the writer, and he has to hide because he's a nobleman. It's a pure scripture where he set it as a game, and everything is mirror imaged. And when Hamlet says, talks about in the to be or not to be soliloquy about supposedly killing himself with a bare bodkin, but for the fear of, all that undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will. Mirror image it. He's saying will's the puzzle. Will is the puzzle. And this is a scripture, and it's a game. And I've left you all these clues in the plays and the poems and the sonnets, and can you figure it out? I am the de Vere behind this mask. Take the mask away, and you'll find out there's the truth hiding inside. So the ultimate truth is we are all Shakespeare. We are all wearing the mask of our communal Midsummer Night's Dream. We're all in delusion. We don't know the ultimate truth. And we're searching for the truth that is inside the devere, which is the altar stone as well, the Holy of Holies, right? And how perfect is that? And once you understand that, oh, this is a mask I'm wearing, let me take it off. Oh, I am the devere as well. I am the Shakespeare. I am the devere. The kingdom of God is within each one of us. So that's what the whole puzzle, the wills, the puzzle, is all about. It was a game set up for us to have a scripture that was departing from the old scriptures that are based on just faith. Believe this and you'll get to heaven, right? This is, he's set a game for us. Look at all these clues I've laid out for you. So that's the essential setup. And to me, that's the most beautiful part of it. The truth is within, and it's hiding there. And so there's no goodie, no baddie, there's no good person, no bad person. It's a game. It's a game. It's a drama. And how perfect. He intended to have that mask. Well, no, it wasn't. It was placed on there as a mask. And as I say at the end of the Gaia series, when he says to be or not to be, he's saying to be or not to be. We all have the opportunity, the choice, the actual option to be who we truly are, the I am that I am, or not to be. And continue wearing the mask and incarnate as many times as we want. That's fine. He says, I love drama. You live forever anyway. What else are you going to do? You can incarnate a bazillion times if you want. But once you understand who you are and you find out, oh, I'm the truth hiding behind that mask. I am the devere. Wow, I was both bottom in Midsummer Night's Dream and I was the whole shebang. So there's the setup. So I went to Stratford to tell them, I think you've got the most miraculous, wonderful thing here. And you have an obligation, a spiritual obligation to open that altar stone because it's in a state of desecration. It shouldn't have a hole that's 250 times the size. It should have a little tiny hole and it doesn't. So it's therefore by Catholic law. No, you're not Roman Catholic anymore, but the vicar says we are Catholic light. And they still have mass at that altar stone. So I said, how about just doing the right thing? What a good story that will be for the church. You did the right thing. You weren't political. And they said, yes, we will agree to opening it and letting you do another scan. And that's what I was there for 6 weeks. And within 2 days of the vicar saying that to me, he put the whole kibosh on it and made a new law and said, no, I didn't say that, he said. And we're not going to do it. And I said to him, are you telling me that you just lied to me? You said you would do it, and now you're saying you won't do it. No, I didn't really exactly say that. And then they started bantering with words and saying, well, I didn't say we would, I said we might. And I said, no, you said you would. So in other words, somebody got to him and said, no, you can't do that. And so you're asking what is the state of the situation there? It is, I was promised that they were going to help me, that I was there to help them, and that they would help me, and that I would undertake it at my own expense to do a more thorough scan in public. And the answer was, yes, we're with you. And then 2 days later, it was, no, we never said that. And I spent another 4 or 5 weeks there, and all kinds of people flew in and came in to join me and pray with me for the ultimate end. And we're still in that situation. The altar stone has not been opened, and it is not in their plans to do it. And you know what I said to him? And I swear on I'm just telling you this from my heart. I swear on my own life. I swear on my daughter's life, my granddaughter's life. This is the truth. This is what happened. He's staring me in the face, and oh God. He wanted me to, when we had the meeting, he said, I said, I just want to have a heart-to-heart talk with you and tell you how wonderful this will be for you. Imagine the church needs a good story, right? come out and say, we're not political and we're going to open this because the world needs Shakespeare. It's not our Shakespeare, it's the world Shakespeare. And Shakespeare left this truth here in these codes. And Alan, you've proven with the scan that something is there. So yes, the world deserves to see what it is. Right. So I sat down with him and he brought a piece of paper with him and he put his robes on and he said, I'd just like you to sign this piece of paper. What's a piece of paper? Well, it says that you have committed the sin of scanning the altar without permission. And I'd like you to admit your sins. And I said, boy, are you sure you want me to admit my sins? It's going to take forever. I said, oh man, you want to know, I'm a very flawed individual. I can reel off a number of sins I did yesterday. I judged and come on. And that's what he wanted me to do. I want you to just confess your sins. You'll feel better. I said, wow. I said, well, he says, you don't have to name them all. I said, oh, thank God, thank God. He says, just sign this and we'll all be on an even field. I said, you know what? I will sign your document that says I have sinned in multifarious ways. But I will not say that I sinned by scanning that altar stone because I heard the word of God himself tell me to scan it. So it wasn't a sin. Because if I hadn't done it, we would never, ever hear the truth. And Shakespeare himself, who you say you love and honor and Lord, and your entire economy is based on him, has been for 200 years. Everything of it, this town exists because people come for Shakespeare. And you say you love him and honor him, and he asks in this final thing, living page, Jostig Mother, I have hewn desiderata. I'm telling you, I've left something there to tell you the truth. And you're not, and you're saying now, no, we won't open it. And you lied to me. So we had a very, very uncomfortable meeting. I signed his document for the sins that I was willing to admit, because I just wanted to say, yeah, if that's important to you, yeah, I'm fine. God knows my sins. But I will not say I sinned by scanning that altar stone. And I said, and I also will not stop telling this story and urging the world to make this story a bigger and bigger and bigger story until Oprah's at your front door with a mic in your face saying, 10 million people want you to open that altar stone. And Spielberg wants to make a movie about it. Are you going to open that altar stone? And you know what he said then? He said, oh, well, maybe then we'll change our minds. I swear, that's what he said. I said, yeah, maybe you will. Because I'm not going to stop. And I think it's disgusting that you, in the name of God, made a promise to me that I could come to Stratford and do a bigger scan of it, and then you changed your mind and said, oh, we've changed our minds, and then you're even saying, no, I didn't really say that, and he's bantering words with me. That's the church. Sorry, that's the truth of what happened. And that's
Thank you, Alan.
That's where it stands. I will not stop, and I hope a group of you might feel the same way. And move to bring this truth to light, because there's no idea stronger than an idea whose time has come. Right? It will get opened because it's divinely written that it's intended to. And the only truth that it's telling once it's opened is what I just said to you. The truth is the inside this mask. We are all that mask, and we are all that truth. Get used to it. We are one. wow, I feel better for having said that. I have not ever said it in public. That's what happened. And it's a sad state of affairs, but there you go. And so someone got to him, and as a man of God, he was perfectly content to say he hadn't lied, but wanted me to sign a document admitting my sins. That paradigm is crumbling. That whole paradigm is crumbling. We're moving away from religion to the true religion of spirit. It's the same thing. There's nothing different. There's nothing different from what Christ said. Right? I am the way and the truth and the life. And even when I shouldn't go there. I'm sorry. I mean, don't mean to have a Christian argument here. We're all adults. We can all take it. It's not against Christians. It's just against the idea that, oh, well, that's the only way. It's a non-inclusive thing, which was why I was so happy to find in what Franklin said about being a member of the St. John's Lodge is that it was, and he was harking back to the original, right, of literally Emperor Constantine seeing in the sky, in Signor Vinces, in the sign you will conquer, which I think means more than just win the battle. It means you will conquer the delusion of the thought that you are separate. And he brought back the Milan Edict and forgave, not just forgave Christians, but said they can worship as they want, and everybody can worship as they want. In other words, he's a Christian, but it's an inclusive Christianity. Most other religions are. Most other religions are inclusive. I worship this way, you worship. Fine, love you, brother and sister. But there are certain aspects of the Christian ideology that has got stuck in this paradigm of we're the only ones who are right. Admit your sins. It's falling. Oh, okay. I didn't expect that question, and I didn't expect to have to give that answer, but I believe that's the truth.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next question. Come on. Let's have a party.
Arturo's next up there.
Oh, am I? I thought Milo Sion was. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to know about the first leads that brought you to investigate the American codes, and if it had anything to do with the monument, the obelisks that had in them time capsules that included the King James Bible and the American founding documents. And I just wanted to hear about that. If you could spend some time on that, please.
Yeah, it was on a call with the group that I used to be part of, Robert Edward Grant's group. We called ourselves the mathematicians rather. And Robert just happened to just apropos of nothing say, it wouldn't surprise me if the Declaration was encoded. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. That's all he said. And I went, oh, shit, it is. I went, oh, damn. And I honestly, I did not want to get into it. And he didn't know anything about it. He just said it was just, he was guided to say that. That was the impetus. It just came as a sentence. And then we were talking about something else. And then it was mentioned by other members of the group, which who said, isn't there something about there being documents hidden in the obelisk? And so I looked into it. Robert got the wrong end of the stick and started saying, oh, there's this in there and that in there, and the King James Bible's in it. It's not true, but well, that sometimes happens with you know, Robert and I joke, well, we don't joke, we don't talk anymore, but at the time it was always, you know, Robert puts things out very, very quickly. I take my time and make sure I've got it right. So he said, oh, the King James Bible is in there, which is not a fact. What happened was it was the member of the Lodge 137. His name was Orange, and he was the person who brought the obelisk over from Egypt. And he was behind the whole thrust to bring it, and it was brought and eventually erected on when? January 22nd, Francis Bacon's birthday, and he's Lodge 137, and he wanted to put all Bibles in there, and there was no funding in the government to do it, so he spent his own money and bought a bunch of Bibles, but he never says the King James Bible was in there. But of course, you know, it's a more sexy story to say it's the King James Bible, but it is apparently true that the works of Shakespeare are in there and copies of the Declaration and the founding documents. So that is part of the story. But what happened was just, oh, you know, yeah, the way we do, we kibutz around and we throw ideas around. And he just said, oh, wouldn't surprise me if it was encoded. And as soon as I heard that, I went, oh, damn. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I knew I had to investigate it. And I went that night to say, all right. And I'm literally praying. I'm saying, please don't let it be encoded. I do not want to go there. That would be another few months' work that I didn't have time to do. But it was John Dee's birthday. It was July 13th, which is July 13/7. John Dee's, 137. So, well, the first thing I'm going to do is look at the number of characters. And if that's significant, then it's probably, and you can't do it with a PDF online because they ignore punctuation and they change spelling and all of that. So I looked at the original and I spent about 3 or 4 hours painstakingly typing it out, making sure I had exactly every comma and period and colon, down to the last dot. And it's 6771 characters. And I went, oh, shit. And I really did. I didn't want to do it. So my next failsafe was, whoa, but what if it doesn't fit in a grid? If it doesn't fit in a grid, then I'm safe. I don't have to do the work. So you look at the factors of 6,771, and what are they? Well, you can get factors that give you a grid like this, doesn't work. You can get factors that give you a grid like that, doesn't work. But you've got to be something that reasonably square or close to a rectangle. And the factors are 1, 1, freaking 1 by 61. And I went, oh, the Trinity, the 1 and 3, the 3 and 1 that is so important to Freemasons. All right, but if I put that into a grid, 6,771 characters, I'm never going to be able to decode it. What the hell is that? I mean, what are you going to look for? Triple towers, probably loads of triple towers in there. It doesn't mean anything, But then I looked at the real document and there's these 2 freaking mistakes that are not even hidden. They're just, oh, look, I made a mistake. And oh, look, I made a mistake. And I'm pointing it out to you. I'm putting a little caret there and the actual mistake. I'm saying, oh, that's not possible. You wouldn't take that to Ben Franklin and Jefferson and Timothy Matlack, the guy who's well, you've already seen this. You've watched the series. I don't need to repeat it, right? It's beautiful. It's utterly perfect except for these 2 mistakes. Okay. Yeah, but how did he make it be precisely that line? Oh, all these lines are different. 33 of these lines that are all different lengths. He's nudging it into place. And it's obvious that's what it is. It's a code. And I knew I thought 3 or 4 months work. It's been a year and almost a year and a few months. So that's how I got into it.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Milo. Arturo, sorry. Oh, which are you? I'm sorry, I lost contact.
That was Arturo, yeah.
Oh, next question. Make it an easy
Question.
one.
Okay, easy ones. There are two. Well, we'll see. One is that throughout this whole thing, you have had the revolve of the entire document behind your right shoulder, but you've never referenced it, and I wondered why. And the other question is, well, it's not really a question, it's more of just a comment. It's like I'm realizing that if the altar stone is opened and, considering how much information and knowledge it was that has gone through time and has gone into these documents, what might we find in there? We were thinking, oh, it would just be Shakespeare's, the written documents that were invisible to us for so long. I mean, who knows what's in there at this point? Oh my goodness. Okay, those are my two
The
questions.
reason I got that behind me is so that somebody would eventually ask Marianne, and you did. You're the
Okay.
first one who asked. Nobody's brought it up. And I just left it there thinking, obviously it's mirror image, right? I spent a lot of time mirror imaging it because I was going to do an Instagram workshop about it. And my friend Katie was helping me set up the whole thing, Instagram and how you do Instagram. And it didn't look like on Instagram, the basic format is it reverses everything. And so if I'd had the actual document behind me, it would have been mirror imaged. And Katie didn't know there was a thing that you could hit a button to switch it around. So it looked like Instagram always flips things. I don't know Instagram. I don't know it at all. So I spent about 8 hours one night printing this thing out backwards and pasting it together so that I would have one that was mirror image, so that when I did the Instagram, it would look the right way. And then once I'd finished it, I found there's a button that you can just hit that mirror images your image on Instagram. So it became a fun thing. And it was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just put it up there anyway, because it's emblematic of the whole thing anyway, isn't it? It's like the whole thing is about mirror imagery, so why not? So I've got a mirror image copy of it.
Have there been extra things that you found because of having that that behind you or working on it from there?
No, not specific. I mean, I guess you're asking, are there other codes hidden in the reverse grid? But since most of them all depend on being seen both ways anyway, no, and I don't want to go there.
Not to make any more work for you.
So your other question was, what's in the altar stone? I know from the codes that the original sonnets are in the altar stone. The sonnets are his sacred work. There's all kinds of clues, and again, it's too long to go into, but if we did another series, I could show you. I've never actually shown it anywhere publicly, but the sonnets are there in the hand of the original author. And that's, of course, that's his most sacred work. And then I began to think, well, obviously the question that most people think is, well, are there plays in there? They must be, all the hidden, the manuscripts that have been hidden. But no, there's not enough room in there. Even as big as it is, there's no room to put maybe 3 or 4 manuscripts of plays, not 36 plays and 6 epic poems and whatever else might be in there. Plus in John Dee's diaries, he is told by the angels to put 7 bundles, they say. He's told to put 7 bundles into the altar stone. And he never says what they are. So all I know for sure is I know that the sonnets are there because they're the sacred work. The sonnets are structured as a pyramid without its pyramidion, and 153, 154, the Bath sonnets at the top are all both about Cupid, and they are the same sonnet told in different ways. And if you've seen my Gaia series, I document that very thoroughly. But just cliff notes on it would be, there's one version of 153, the Cupid story, and there's another version of the Cupid story. And one is all about platonic love, and the other is all about sexual love. And he's saying with it that you must balance those two, that they're both important and that they are the male and female aspects coming together, no pun intended, and just making them be precisely, well, they become one. And then they are 153. And then you've got a perfect 17 based triangular number that goes all the way to, so it's echoing the Great Pyramid that has no pyramidion, but it's saying that these two are absolutely substantial to the whole encoding, and that's very deep. So the sonnets are there because they are, in other words, the entire pyramid is our spiritual journey. It starts with 17 procreation sonnets. They're all about get a kid, get a kid, get a kid, get a kid. The author is saying, get a child so that your name will last past your mortal incarnation. And then after 17, he never mentions it ever again. And they're called the procreation sonnets. And then the rest are called the fair youth sonnets. And they are all about the life of us going through our various stages in life through to gradually awakening. And the top ones are the very sexy ones. As you get to the last area at the top, they are then called the Dark Lady sonnets. And of course, our kids in school are being taught, oh, this is, yeah, the Dark Lady. It's a black prostitute in Clerkenwell who Shakespeare had an affair with. Come on. That's what we're teaching our kids. That's why they're all about sex. The Dark Lady is Mother Kali. Dark Lady is the final thing to go, right? The sexual instinct is the last thing to go if you're working your way back to unity consciousness. It has to be the last thing to go because there'd be no creation without it. And he's talking about his shame about still being attached to, I want to get laid, you know, and blah, blah, blah. That's what he's talking about. But it's just telling us that's what we go through, and I've got rid of all these other desires, but damn, I wish I could get rid of this one. And then he breaks through, and then you've got this perfect blend of the platonic love and the sexual love placed into one pure love. That's what it's about. So the sonnets, it makes perfect sense that those would be in the Holy of Holies altar stone, but all the plays are life on earth. They are everything from, you know, a certain amount of love, but most of it is darn right, you know, it's all battles and fights and blasphemy and wars and treachery and cannibalism, and it's life on earth. He's not going to put those into the Holy of Holies altar stone. That would, in a sense, be desecrating it. Those are hidden somewhere else. And I know where they are. Just saying. So
Code that you haven't revealed?
there, and I know that there's another 6 bundles that John Dee put in there, or John Dee was instructed to put in there. And what they are, he hints at. He hints that the Philosopher's Stone is in there. He hints that. But of course, there's so much pointing to, and this harks back to Owen's central question. Is there something pragmatic, something useful that we can actually learn? You know, why are well over half the codes all mathematics and scientific? Rob Burns would be interested in this aspect of it, right? And Nassim Harameyn's work. He goes to such lengths to put all these scientific things in there that it makes you wonder, when we open that altar stone, what are we going to find? Are we going to find something about free energy? We're going to find something about anti-gravity? Are we going to find something about how they built the pyramids in the first place and how it was done? I believe so, because it's not all about art, it's about alchemy, and alchemy is the uniting of left and right sides of the brain. This is art. This is the scientific side. And he's always saying that they are utterly, you can't have one without the other. On this level, you see a rose and it's beautiful, and it's a rose, it's a rose, it's a rose, it's a rose, right? Deep down, it's nothing but spinning electrons and subatomic particles. It's nothing but science. This isn't solid. It's 99.999999999% space. So it's both. It's the outer world is that poetic side, and the inner world is the utter pure science that it's all based on. So what's in that altar stone is useful and timely, and it is, I'll say it, it's going to save the world from its dependence on oil and its dependence on, right, I mean, that's what it is. It's going to be a scientific explosion of knowledge as well. And that's why it's important to open it. It's not just, oh, here are the works. The works are absolutely important and sacred in their own way, and they will be found. And Ben Franklin is writing about them too, but I haven't put that into the series because he tells us he knows where certain of the works are as well. But what's in the altar? That's a big question, Marianne. That was a good one, because I can't tell you. I can only say what my intuition knows is the fact that it's going to be something that will be world changing, world useful. Hopefully it comes soon, but I do have to remember it's all a TH.
Yeah, maybe we can trust that it's all in right timing.
You have to, yeah.
Alan, I have a family commitment, but I think everyone is able to unmute themselves, and you can follow the order there in the participants list of hands up. So there's no fights.
You're on your honor. You're on your honor system now.
Thank
you,
you.
Lauren. That was
Thank you,
really...
Alan, and thank you, everybody. And we'll be in touch. Such an honor to be here with you all. Very auspicious.
Thanks.
Be in touch. Thank you, Alan. Bye.
Thank you for your help.
Yes. So who was next? Whoever. Just let's go.
I was.
Okay.
Hi, Alan. That was a great answer. This last one, that's really exciting about what might be in there, and you know, who'd have thought? Fantastic.
Well, he wouldn't be pointing us to the Great Pyramid if not. I mean, he wouldn't be saying it's in the pyramid, it's in the pyramid. He's telling us there's something so significant there mathematically and therefore pragmatically useful, right? Plus, as again, John Dee himself says that the hints that the philosopher's stone is in there. What is the philosopher's stone? Only the answer to everything, right? Supposedly.
Well, will that be MFKZT? Does anybody know it's an Egypt? It's what language is it? MFKZT. That's used by Gardner as the conical bread made of monoatomic gold that is presumably the philosopher's stone.
Oh, I honestly have never heard of that. What is NFKZT?
It's mana. It's called Shemana. It is.
It is mana. But,
yes.
But what does the NFKZT stand for?
That's how it's pronounced. It's kind of like Yahweh, but it's Mafakzat. MFKZT. That's how it's referred to in Lawrence Gardner's many works detailing.
I have not read it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yes. I'm saying yes.
The Highward Firestone is what it's been called as well. The Highward Firestone, and it was produced in the Sinai, atop that mountain, the name of which I forget, where it was sort of uncovered and discovered back in the late 1800s by Petrie. They found monoatomic gold. They found the there was word of this Highward Firestone, and anyway, that's what the philosopher's stone is, according to many, and I think it's a valid interpretation to some aspects. But this was not my question. It was just, you know, it's fantastic what was in there. My question is more with regards to, you know, the world being a stage and the Maya of the Hindus. I heard it said today that there is no good, there is no evil. There's just a bunch of people playing their parts. And, you know, I've heard you say that before, and Robert Edward Grant, you know, many people espouse this idea that, you know, we're just here to play roles. But it's hard to palate that when we look around and see the suffering. And you know, I presume, I suspect that everyone here that's listening in, you know, has done their own boatload of suffering. We all suffer, and yet we also know undeniably that there is a enormous human suffering greater than our own taking place, you know, in Guantanamo Bay, and you know, torture, you know, whatever. There are people that torture other people. That there are people that live their whole lives being tortured and suffering. And so, how do we justify, or how do we make sense of that with this idea that we're just here playing a part and there is no evil?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the most difficult questions to ask and to answer. And I'd be too trite to say I can answer it. I can only give you my opinion. I tried to say it in 21 and 22. How can you possibly say to a woman who's just lost her child in Gaza, oh, it's all a play. No, it's all divine. Don't worry. You can't. There's just no way around the difficulty of that, the impossibility of saying to anyone what you ultimately have to say if you embrace the idea that, oh, all right. I believe this. I believe there is only God. By definition, God is all powerful, all knowing, all seeing, all love. Again, not to pick on any particular religion, but I have heard Christians say to me, that God is all that, all loving, and that Satan just appeared out of, that was an accident. God didn't see that coming. And that you must accept that that is evil and that you must fight that. I know, it's an almost imponderable and unanswerable question, but how can that be? God, all-powerful, all-knowing, did not account for this Satan. So when I say Set is the one who cuts Osiris into 14 or a gazillion pieces, his job is that, is Maya, to cut the one indivisible into, so that we can have a play. Otherwise, there's only one, and we're all in one consciousness, and we don't have a play then. Right? We just sit around in utter total bliss for eternity. Maybe we get tired of that, or maybe, who knows? I don't know. But at some point, someone said, let's forget that we are the one so that we can have a play. And the moment you do that, you've got electron, proton, you've got light, dark, you've got up, down, you've got male, female, you've got yes, no, you've got to be, not to be. You have duality. And if you've got duality and you've got free will, it will not be taken away from you, then you can do anything, whatever the hell you like. And we do.
Thank you.
We do. And as unthinkable as it is and unfathomable as it is, that's what I said when I said we brought this on ourselves. This is our collective national karma. It's world karma, the election, and that's what it is. And I don't know if all the conspiracy theories about the Democrats are right, and I don't know if all the conspiracy theories about Trump are right. I don't care. We are living in a duality, and you have to accept that's it. But when someone confronts you to say, oh, no, 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 God is good, God is good, God is only good. Yeah, ultimately. So then you're stuck with, okay, so God is only good. That means all this evil and good is still only good. How do I reconcile that? Because we've been given free will to do whatever we want, and we are curious souls, and we're going to do whatever we want, and then the fire we touch will burn us, and that's it. And you can't escape it until you understand I am the truth behind this mask, and I'm going to stop wearing this mask, and I am going to honor who I truly am. I am that I am, and I am going to choose to do whatever I can to alleviate that suffering, because that's me too. But to tell somebody that is impossible. On the other hand, what is eternity? Mathematically, it means that what's happening right now, even a lifetime of horrible torture and suffering, is you will leave that consciousness and you will have an utter eternity of, well, you might have a few more incarnations to go through.
Right.
But whatever, whenever you've done the journey, you've still got an entire eternity of utter God consciousness. Nothing but bliss. It will be as though none of this ever happened. Great ones say that. They say you die and you wake up from a dream and you go, oh my God, that was just a dream. Wow, I thought I was... As inconceivable as that is to us when we're stuck in a meat body, I'm sorry, I do not mean to preach. I am not hope across as preaching, but that's what I believe. And that's the only conclusion I can come to when I understand that God is nothing but divine love. So why does he, we all say, oh, why does he allow all this? Got to. You have free will. If he took away free will, he'd be a dictator. He, she, it would be a dictator, but it's all us anyway. So we're stuck in...
You've shown that with your work. That's the comforting thing, that there is something in control, but it still doesn't solve this this question of enormous human suffering.
Never will. There will there. It never will. There always will be. If we've got free will.
I think the book of Job would help, to look at the book of Job that deals with the whole issue of evil.
Please enlighten us, Paul.
Oh, just in terms of Job had suffered greatly. And I know that Carl Jung deals with that in terms of good and evil and the suffering of humanity, because Job lost everything, but then he came around to see that, there is that evil, but there is a God in the end comes through with love. So, and it's an eternal problem. Yeah, again, but
yeah.
Where this is all leading, though, is hopeful. There is light in going through the darkness, and that's, where does this go with each of us individually? As where might it go in terms of the American Code community? Will we be meeting again? It's a practical question. Will we be meeting quarterly, or will we continue this sense of forum? I would hope so, somewhere in the new year. How might this unfold? And I think we're as old as the pyramids here. And there are some interesting connections. I'm sorry to jump in here, Michael. But it connects with what you were talking about in terms of suffering, but also the work of Gary Osborne and the whole Rendlesham Forest enigma. I don't know if you are familiar with that. Somewhere there's some kind, you're both coming from different sides, but there's some connection. And the codes that have been discovered, the 7 codes locations around the planet, I think are very significant in terms of what Gary Osborne has discovered, and Jim Penniston, that 1980, where they touched a craft, and there was actually some sense of communication as well as time travel back from, and apparently, you know, the mathematics that you've uncovered is absolutely, I mean, it's right smack on with what they've uncovered, and the two of you have not talked with. I mean, it's just really quite good in terms of, you know, the codes and that whole incident in December of 1980. So that's really my first question in terms of where will we go as a community, and as well as where will we go with individual experiences with this. I think it's part of an individuation process, perhaps.
Thank you. You don't need to apologize for butting in. Everybody should feel the same. I just gave my opinion. That's what makes sense to me. That's what I believe all the great masters who have come to teach us basically all said the same thing. It's a dream. It's a dream, as hellish as it can be. It's a dream, and once you're out of it, it will be as though it never even happened. But again, that is absolutely almost impossible to convey, and very tricky to talk about. Yeah, sure, because you become a target for, oh, you believe there's no evil, and you know, I mean, it's almost impossible to deal with. I will mention one thing. Yogananda once gave a letter to a mother who had just lost her son, and in his wish to console her, he said, "Don't read this letter now. No, you may never read it, but keep it, and when you feel like you've gone through your grieving process to the degree that you want to know what I have to say about it, then read the letter." And what he basically told her was that, yes, you know, your son is fine, he's in a wonderful place, but I know that means nothing to you right now, and you are in agony, and nothing I can possibly say is going to change that until you have complete enlightenment. And I love you, and whatever else was written was never brought forward. It was spoken about at a convocation once of Self-Realization Fellowship devotees, and so I mean, it's the same thing. You know, even he's a world guru, or well, whatever you believe him to be. But he, you know, helpless to console a grieving mother, other than to say, at some point, it will all make sense. But he also said, I argue with God every day about it. He's an enlightened being. So I argue with God every day. Why did you cause this? Why did you cause that? And he gives me the answer, but I can't even convey the answer because it's not an answer that can be understood. Like a dream that's going to evaporate when you wake up, it's sort of gone, and you understand it during the dream, and then, oh, I had it. And, well.
Pardon me, I'm so sorry, Ellen. I just have to let you know that I have to jump off in a couple of minutes. So I just wanted to say thank you and give you my full support and permission to proceed with you know what, if you so choose to.
Carrie, this is Carrie Urban, and you know what is that she literally, I've asked people to come forward and tell me if they have input, such as Christopher, who had found natural laws, and Carrie found something that is huge, and she had the intuition to call me about it, and like always I resisted and said, oh, I don't want to go there, and then I heard the voice internally saying, yes, you need to, and I went and I looked at it, and she and I have been looking at it for the past couple of days. It's absolutely huge. It's not totally connected to the America codes, it's connected to the Shakespeare codes, but I'm very proud of her, because that's what I want to encourage in you all. Any of you who feel you have a knack or a kind of a interest in looking at the codes. That's why I sent the PDFs this morning that you can look closely at, because I can't do it all alone. And people like Carrie and Christopher and others who have come forward and said, I found something, that thrills me. You know, I'm glad, because there are gems just waiting to be found. And it's not one person's job.
Will we be getting together again? I hope.
Yes. So, all right. So let's talk. Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for mentioning that. I did want to get to it, but I didn't know if you might want to have a question to ask. So I was waiting for you to come forward on that. But
I'm so sorry. I thought, well, whatever. Everything's perfect. Maybe another time.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been such a joy.
All right. Say hi to your dad.
He's on the call.
Where are you, Dad? Is this you? Oh,
Dad,
Peggy.
Yeah, that's Peggy is my dad. Dad, unmute yourself.
I'm undercover.
Oh, okay. Who are you reporting?
Thank you very much.
Who do you work for?
I'm just a lowly construction worker.
Who sent you?
You'll never find me.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you so much for giving me so much in your codes.
You're welcome. It is my honor and a privilege. And if it reaches people, that just makes my day, and it makes it all worthwhile, the effort. There's no point in, me knowing it and not sharing it. And when I share it and people get it, that's the goal. So thank you for your interest and support. It's appreciated.
Be waiting for more.
Bye-bye, Carrie. All right, so to answer Paul's question, where do we go from here? That's good. A call to action. I find it hard to ask for help. I really do. Up until now, up until this series, I have never charged for anything I've ever done in over 20 years. I've done it all on my own time and on my own dime. And not that it's important, but I've spent my life savings, right? And I find that it's now appropriate to ask for help, because I need it. And this work needs to be brought forward, and it's only reasonable to say, well, it's whatever you feel you might want to contribute, whatever it is, whether it's your prayers or it's a little or a lot, is deeply appreciated. And so I would ask you, if you can, to support the Shakespeare Foundation, because that was my goal all along, was to have a foundation in the name of the true Shakespeare, because Edward de Vere was almost the original patron of the arts, if you want to think of it that way. He's born the wealthiest man in the nation. A lot of that got ripped off from him, because he was put under the wardship of William Cecil, and they bled him dry to try. But he's had so much lands and so much castles and this and that, and he was always selling them and saying, sell them. All he wanted to do was put on the arts, not only his own, but he bought a place in London called Fisher's Folly, and everybody came. Ben Jonson and Lilly and Kidd and any poets, any burgeoning scientists, they all came to this sort of salon, and if he considered their work worthy, he would support it and pay for it to be published anonymously. That's what he did with his massive wealth. And so I always thought it fitting that I would form the Shakespeare Foundation in the name of the true Shakespeare, Edward de Vere and Bacon to some degree, and John Dee to some other degree, but he's not a writer, so that we can support the arts the way he did, because the arts is the most underfunded of all the disciplines, right? We know this. For every $100 that the United States invests in science, I'm not saying they shouldn't invest in science, but for every $100 that is invested in science, do you know how much is invested in the arts? 46 cents. We cannot live in a world that is so unbalanced that, oh, the arts are just not important. Science is all that matters. And here's Shakespeare known as this great artist, and yet not known behind the scenes as this great polymath, a mathematical genius as well. Most of that was coming from the John Dee side of it, but he had to be a mathematical genius to understand what John Dee was conveying to him as well, and to work together to put it into codes in their most important speeches in all the plays and the poems and the sonnets. So I formed the Shakespeare Foundation. Everything that you contributed to this series went into the Shakespeare Foundation, and everything in it is to go to the continued support of education and the continued research of this work, and ultimately, when it becomes a billion-dollar foundation, which it will support the arts totally. No, it will. That's not a question. It might not happen in my lifetime, but it will happen because that altar will be opened, the altar stone will be open. The truth about the Declaration and this founding documents will be open. There will be movies, there will be TV series about it, and everything will go to the foundation. That's the purpose, to support the arts, to bring it back up into resonance with at least being parallel supported with science, which we must support both, because that's alchemy. That's the marriage of the two sides of our brain, isn't it? So that's how you can help. You can help by, I would say, if you feel moved to, please help us get the attention of the major podcasters. If you would write an email in your own words to Joe Rogan and say, you have to see this. And if you'll write one to Dark Journalist, and you'll write one to Sean Ryan, and whoever you feel, there's a lot of big name podcasters who reach millions and millions of millions. And if they get 50 or 60 letters from you, not from you individually, but one from each. If you were to do that, they'd go, oh, this might be worth my attention. And going on one of those shows will suddenly change the whole paradigm, won't it? Be like, oh, Alan, yes, I'm not belittling what we did here. It's wonderful. About 150 people were on this series. It's not going to shift the paradigm. A few million will. But that's exponential, and that's just pure math. It will happen the moment that this news gets onto a Joe Rogan show, a Sean Ryan show, the others that I've mentioned. This will change overnight very, very quickly. And I'm having a meeting. Well, I'm not having a meeting. I don't want to exaggerate. I'm going to meet Mark Rylance next week in London. When I'm there to discuss further, because he has embraced my work and said he respects it, and his main passion is, besides everything he does in theatre, is again to tell the true Shakespeare story. So I'm hoping he will give me some time, and if he gives me enough time to get turned on to this, imagine what he can do. He's got Spielberg's ear. He can just go, hey, you need to look at this. Sit down meeting, we'll have a movie. Those are the things that shifted, right? Theatrically, I'm writing 2 plays currently, really. One called Begin Again that's already been so well received. I did a production of it inside the King's Chamber, wearing a white tuxedo and a white top hat, in which I played the parts of God, Shakespeare, and Moses simultaneously. It's a theatrical piece that is really good. I'm not just bragging. It's really good, because I know I didn't write it. It was channeled to me. It was channeled to me. Sorry, but it just came to me. And I'm writing one about the Ben Franklin story. I have to. I know it has to be a theatrical piece. So all these irons in various fires. But if you feel passionately as you do today about it, that would mean a lot to me. If you could write to these people and say, you have to see this, So I would ask you to do that. That would be tremendously helpful. I also ask for your meditations and prayers, because prayers move worlds and it's more powerful than anything we truly can imagine. We can manifest with our thoughts. So manifest your thoughts, see it happening. Right, that's a call to action, and I hope that that might stir some of you to do just that. What do I have in terms of notes? I had very interesting. Paul, I've got to find out what you mean by you saying that Vierville-sur-Mer was Ormandy Beach. I did not know that.
Yeah. And
that seems rather significant. I mean, wow.
Yeah. The Chateau de Vierville looks from the dining room. You can look, you see the beach, and it's right where they came up on June 6, 1944.
Wow.
Yeah, it's.
You know, the reason I have a piano, the reason I got a piano is because my dad, survived the war, and he was supposed to go over on D-Day. And he got what he called $1 million or £1 million wound. He got shrapnel in his ear, and he was put into hospital, and he missed D-Day by about a week.
Mm.
All his friends died. And then he eventually went over. So that bit of shrapnel saved my dad. That means I came into existence. And then years later, of course, he came back a very, very broken. Very broken man. But he happened to have a knack about music, and he went on a TV show. I think in America it's called Name That Tune. In England it was Spot the Tune. And he just went on this show, and he won the jackpot by naming certain songs and things. And he came back with what we considered a fortune at the time. It was 300 and some odd pounds. And to us, that was $1 million. And he came back and he said, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I finally got what I wanted, what I'd been asking for since I was 4 years old. I wanted a piano. And we couldn't afford a piano. We had no money. Yeah. I wanted a piano. And so he came back with his winnings, and he bought me a piano, a beaten up old piano from a pub for £5. And that was when I was 10. And it changed my life, of course. That's what I needed. And I learned piano, and that became my life. So I don't know what got me on that, but the idea is that, nothing is, it's those things, isn't it? It's like, oh, that, and that, all these pieces come together. So it was the D-Day thing. Yeah. He should have gone over on D-Day and I wouldn't have existed. And he got a piece of shrapnel in his ear, and yeah. You never know. You don't know. We don't know. Miracles abound all around us. We've got no idea what's really going on. As Hamlet says, there are more things in heaven and earth, a ratio than I dreamed of in our philosophy. Let's have another question. Let's keep going until we drop dead.
All right.
Just a joke.
I think it's my turn.
Please go. Yeah. Hi, Karim.
Hi. So yeah, you kind of answered already my question about, I was thinking, I'm seeing the astrology around this time, and especially the Sabian symbols that are also connected into Shakespeare America codes, and I'm a student of Kabbalah, so it's all coming together in that sense. And I guess my question was, before you answered it, do you think this can happen in our generation? Do you think there can be a movement from this duality consciousness into more of like a third reality, into that, the inner becoming the outer, like a consciousness expansion for the masses? I mean, maybe it's going to start, it is already here to a certain degree, but this paradigm shift, what are your thoughts on that? And I know you're familiar with the gene keys as well. So do you see the connection with that as well? And then also the Zohar, the Hebrew letters, the Hebrew alphabet and all of that.
Sure.
So it's a little mixed up question, but
Oh, no, of course. Yeah. I think it's inevitable. I mean, we are at a cusp of explosion in all kinds of disclosure is happening in almost every field, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had a few talks with Danny Sheehan, who's the person who's pro bono lawyer for all kinds of things concerning Watergate and this, that, and the other. I mean, he solved all kinds of on the good side of things. He spent his whole life being an activist for good. I guess he's independently wealthy and could do that. And he's now in charge of disclosure. And he said to me, I have a mandate from various sources in the government where I have subpoena power, and we are going to make sure that every single UFO incident becomes public knowledge within a year and a half.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So the disclosure becomes absolutely complete disclosure, right? So there's that. As far as other things that I don't know enough about, monetary policy and the so-called possible economic collapse and all those things. I mean, I think we all know that it's right on the horizon, and it must have a meaning in terms of shifting our consciousness to a higher level.
Yep.
So I don't have the least doubt that we are on the cusp of great change. I'm not a seer, so I can't say I predict, although maybe it's in the declaration, and maybe once I've had a couple of days off, maybe I'll have a look and see if they predicted when that's going to happen. But yeah, it's happening. It has to anyway. I mean, we are on an upward spiral. We are in Dwapara Yuga. We've come out of Kali Yuga, the absolute deepest, darkest pit. All we know about our history is a couple of thousand years, isn't it? We don't even know about what was happening in the golden ages. We just know this part, and we are ascending, and we are ascending fast. And even though it looks like the whole planet's going to hell in a handbasket, whatever a handbasket is, I don't know. I ask people, what is a handbasket? But it's improving. It doesn't look like it, but it is. So yeah, no question at all.
And I actually found something as well in the documents, and that is the lens. And I've always been aware of this lens function of our perception being so important to make things happen. And it seems that there is the lens, and then right underneath, it says alter, as in altering.
In the declaration?
I think so, yes.
Would you send it to me?
Yeah, I will. Absolutely.
Please. Yeah. Oh, well, that's exciting.
And then you could also see the letter Dalet, which also is extremely significant and has come up over the last 3.5 years for me all the time. Dalet and Gimel coming together, bringing through the light of redemption.
Yes.
So the letter Dalet is also like right next to the altar. Like you could read it also as Dalet.
Because it looks like it in the original document, in the handwriting of Timothy Matlack, you mean, or in the grid?
No, in the grid.
Wow.
In the grid. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please send it. We'll have a natter about it and look into it.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, great. All right, who's next?
Sorry, I wish to add on to that. Hi.
Yes.
May I add on to? Hello.
Yes, Suzanne. Yes.
Yes, so in our trip to New York, we stumbled upon the dollar bill. And I don't actually have one here with me, but you can see the one in the center. And it is exactly the same shape as the 3 letters in the God name, which mean prosperity, but backwards, revolt.
How you meaning the dollar bill? What do you mean? It's the same shape as the letters?
So there's a god name in Kabbalah, if somebody can knows it. Maybe you know it.
Samic
Corina?
Aleph Lamed?
Yeah.
Yes, I just painted a painting. I mean, just like.
So
yeah.
So it's in the dollar bill. As we were guided through our journey in New York, which was amazing, we were uncovering the economy thing in the culture, and we saw the dollar bill, and we have these cards with the 72 names, and the letter in the center is Aleph because it's an N, right?
Yes.
So it just came like this, and then we see the other two, and there's an E and O. So Samech is an O, Aleph is the N, and Lamed is the E. It's amazing.
Would you both communicate with me about that and show me your painting, Corina, as well?
It doesn't show.
It doesn't what?
I would love to see your painting.
No.
Maybe if I unmute myself quickly, I don't know where I am.
I don't know why the painting's coming out blurry because you have a background preventer.
You've got a background thing. Take your background filter off.
Does it work now?
No, you need to take your background filter off on your Zoom
right.
setting.
I'm going to do that quickly.
We'd love to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Settings. Here we go. Sorry.
All right.
Okay. None.
There you go. That's it. Okay.
There we go.
Oh, right. Got it. Yes.
Let me see. So
it's the Sephirot.
Yes. So you have the Samek, as she was just talking about that. The Aleph.
Take it further back because we can't see it all. There you go.
Yeah, I can't see myself on here. That's why. And then the Lamed. And I literally just painted it basically like a week ago I started, and then yesterday I brought in the Samek Aleph Lamed, of course.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, so that's the one in the dollar bill. It's pretty amazing.
I have to check that as well. Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
Please send that. That's great.
Sure, we'll get in touch.
Thank you. Thanks, Susan. Anybody else? Who's next? We got. Just jump forward because I don't know who's first in the queue, but just anybody.
Darius.
Asterios. Oh, Darius.
I don't know if
Darius is, okay.
he's here.
I just jump in.
Okay. So yeah, I have a question, but I have a couple of quick.
I have a question though. Where's your kilt?
It's still on me bottom, but I have a coat on me top. There you go.
Okay.
By the way, since I have Scottish, my ancestry is Scottish, Irish, British, and Jewish, Ukrainian. Yeah, but one of my missions in life is to uncover and publicize more of the very mysterious Scottish-Jewish connection. And I just wanted to mention that because there's a whole Jewish, there were up until the 80s, there were more Jews in Scotland than anywhere outside of Israel. And it's a very profound, there are many profound similarities and connections with culture. It's very important. And I feel it's very, very important. And there's by the way, the whole Jewish thing with the nation's history, I would love to discover more too, because, we wouldn't, with the wealthy Jewish businessmen funding, Washington and everything so, but that's the whole thing. So I do have a question, but a couple of quick observations. I really feel like I just want to share this because the question of good and evil is so difficult. It's impossible, really. And I want to just mention Rupert Spira is a non-duality teacher, profound information. If anybody would like real guidance on how to resolve the question of good and evil and how God could allow that, please check out Rupert Spira and his non-duality teachings. He has 1,000 videos on YouTube, and basically a little quick nugget.
What's the last name? Rupert what?
Spira, 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 as in spiral.
Okay.
Yeah, Rupert. Yeah, and the question of how could a god allow good and evil is completely unanswerable from the mind, and because the mind works in the field of duality, which is the very cause of the appearance of good and evil to begin with. So the only solution is to be found outside the system. Anyway, his teachings are great. I did want to make a couple of other quick little things. The bundles in the altar stone, it would make a lot of sense, Alan, what you were saying, that it has to do with free energy or some modern alchemical science, because the altar stone is the Holy of Holies, right? And the original Holy of Holies, Temple of Solomon, and the room in that housed the Ark of the Covenant, which is a free energy device, right? The gold, lead, gold capacitor. Yeah, right. So that totally makes sense to me. And the one other quick observation is the Dark Lady sonnet. Very interesting, because you were the metaphor of having to transcend the final aspects of sexual, energies in order to achieve the capstone, which totally relates to the IAOM, because when I did some research online and I read this Masonic, it was a Masonic text for Freemasons, obviously. I'm forgetting the name right now. I have it at home. But it's very specifically said that it spoke about the IOM, and it said, this is a very simple thing that you can do. It's you have to say E-R-O-M, and it, brings all you and I were going to talk, I think, a little more at some point about the vibrations. But the point is that it's ineffective unless you have already perfected your body and become essentially a hermaphrodite. In other words, completely transcended the male and female duality in the body. That's what it says in the text. That's completely in line with the Dark Lady sonnet. So it's a beautiful, right extension of that, I thought. So I just wanted to throw that out. Yeah. So my question is about terraforming, because as soon as I heard the sun and the moon are the same size visually, I thought, oh, well, obviously that was done intentionally. Now, I know you brought up the idea of this utter perfection of God creating, and of course, everything is perfect and everything is God. But from a step down, I just wanted to share a little bit of knowledge that I have from shamanic practices and a path that I studied in South American shamanism, where there are spirits of all levels, from the tiniest individual pebble up to the creator spirit, but in between are maker spirits, which can actually terraform, create planets and large things. And also the NASA videos that I remember Nassim shared, these NASA videos of planet-sized craft entering the sun, going through the sun, coming out of the sun and going back into the sun. So I just wanted to throw that into the mix and see if you had any thoughts or knowledge about the sun and the moon, because it's just so important to all of this, right? The sun and the moon. There's there's so many stories, ideas of going, even that the moon is hollow and it was built and this and that. But how could it be? Were they placed? Was the moon created, or was it placed, and so on? Did it just happen in the overall perfection of things, or was there a real scientific mechanization going on? What do you think?
I think they're the same thing. I mean, what would you call a scientific mechanization? But
well, that's
divine intelligence making it happen.
Making it happen through us. Yeah.
I know. I think it's Alan Butler brought about the idea of a man-made moon somewhere at some point. I don't know. I think it's him. But I don't know. I mean, it's pointless for me to hold forth on that. I don't know.
Supposedly the moon rang like a bell when the astronauts landed on it, meaning it was hollow, like metallic or something, and they had measurements of that, so yeah, anyway.
I don't know. Again, I mean, how much is...
Yeah.
That's the problem we face in any case. Reading anything online is like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
That, another person thinks that. You have to just go...
Right.
You have to just do the best you can to move your own energy up your spine, up to the higher chakras, and get more enlightenment, more discernment. So Kriya Yoga, as I mentioned before, is very, very similar. I can't reveal it because it's a sacred technique, but anybody can get it. You just want to go to Yogananda's teachings. But it's really the same sounds used in a different way. But Yogananda says, it works like mathematics. You can't fail. It's a science. Just do it and you get the experience of unity consciousness. So it doesn't surprise me that the Freemasons had access to this MOAI-IAOM. I think it was Rosicrucian. Maybe it was more ancient than Rosicrucian because, of course, John Dee was Grand Master of the Rosicrucians. Shakespeare was a Rosicrucian. Bacon was a Rosicrucian. So, yeah, I can't answer your second part of the question other than to say I think it's just divine. I mean ultimately, it all is anyway. I mean, one of the questions that I addressed early on was, how much is man-made and how much is divine, and is there any difference ultimately? Because if we are one, we're all the divine. We're just co-creators, not quite as there as if we were already fully back home in our complete oneness.
Right.
It's no difference. It's just a matter.
Yeah. I bring it up because what I find interesting is that, yes, there's man-made here, we're doing stuff, and then there's the big overall scheme, mysterious, ineffable, but there's also the intermediary of very large forces that are both spiritual and physical, maybe like Saint Germain or like Thoth or like maker spirits. And I just bring it up because I think it's interesting to not necessarily go from little human to play with these ideas of larger forces and the idea of angels and ETs maybe not being so completely separate. And it just seems to me there's a relationship here because we're dealing with these sort of people who seem to be born over and over again and very large spiritual beings that are, it's not immortal and it's not immortal, it's sort of in between. So maybe I'm just free associating, but I see a relationship between the sun and the moon there.
Yeah, as it should be, right? Yeah. What is an ant? What is what is an electron? What is a photon? It's all consciousness. All consciousness. We have no idea, right? We have no idea. We just have to relax and go, okay, there's a plan. I'm cool with that. I'll just take the next step. I mean, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but really, if we can reach that point of simplifying it to that degree, then all the anxiety kind of leaves. You go, okay, I'll just show up for work, right? I'll do the next thing.
Yeah,
that's what I do. Thanks, Darius.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Next, who's got their hand up next?
I'll jump in there.
Sorry,
who's that?
I think I'm next, if that's the order on the left to right. I don't know. Well, hello. Thank you very much, Alan. I was curious, first, maybe a short question. If I had missed, you had mentioned chess codes and used a chessboard on your program schedule, but I wondered if I had missed codes you had mentioned in the meetings before the series began, or if you haven't shared them yet, or if you could share what you found.
About a chessboard?
Yeah, you said you had found codes related to the game chess or chess pieces or the chessboard or something of this nature before the series began, and you had you got the chess theme going.
No,
so
I just used it because it's 64, right? And 64 squares, and it's an 8x8, and it happens to gel with Franklin in inventing an 8x8 magic square. I have done a video somewhere, it's online somewhere in the YouTube, about what's called a knight's tour, where you play knight's moves on a chessboard, and by playing legal knight's moves, in a certain order. You cover every single square and reach the end. And I've actually put that into the Under a Shakespeare Moon book, into the story I've that's written about that. But no, I don't recall saying I've got codes about a chess board.
You said I was specifically in the meetings, and I had then looked into the game since then, and I found some things. But that's okay. I get past that. I could share a few different Knights tours, one of which is a magic square itself.
Who's talking?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't know who's talking.
Oh, that's a stereo stare, Paul.
Okay. So you're saying I actually said it?
In the meetings before the series began, you said you had even found codes related to chess, and then and so I thought the theme was kind of related to codes you had found. But
I must have.
Besides that, the knight itself, the movements, if they're not, and most people think of it in terms of the squares like an L shape, but you could draw a curve through that as well, and you get something looking a lot like a Maltese or template cross, which you could fit onto the grid very interestingly, and looks a lot like stuff, drawings Robert has done and things of this nature. Anyway, so I looked into a lot of that and talked to some friends about it and found some things. But anyway, my other question was related to Monas Hieroglyphica, or one of them was related to Monas Hieroglyphica. And the second page, he has like the different symbols that he combines into his sigil, if you want to call it that.
Monas. Yeah.
But they're arranged, in that inverted triangle at the top of the page, and I thought that was interesting. And I was wondering if you have actually found encryptions in the actual text of that,
oh my God,
if he just spoke about.
Yeah, it's a minefield of them. Yeah, I have a lot of unlisted videos. What I've done over the years, over the just 20 years, whenever I had something that I thought was significant, but I didn't know where it fit in the overall story, I would load it onto YouTube as an unlisted and just leave it there. And over the years, I was just realizing that there's probably more information there than I can ever really curate back into a book. So I might do a series at some point where I give access to those because they don't fit in terms of saying, oh, this is logical extension from this to this to this to this, but they're all rather spectacular in I feel, insights and codes that are, let's just say they seem arbitrary, and I haven't yet managed to fit why that one fits to that and that and that. So they are, and one of them is, one of them is where I actually play out a Knight's Tour and show you that. And then I guess I've just blanked on my actually saying that I thought that it was a code. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, don't know. What was the other one that you said, the last thing you just said, because I've lost track?
Second page of Monas
Monas.
Hieroglyphica.
Yeah.
I could share a little screenshot.
Monas Hieroglyphica. And then, the entire thing is really, oh God, that is as deep as can be, as you would expect. I have a whole thing on that which I have not made public, and it's about him telling you that the entire thing is about the cuboctahedron, about the structure of the cuboctahedron, and the which is the only particular shape that is all vertices, all edges are all one. That just, it's a
14 sides, right?
Well, yes, and so that in itself, and it's about close packing of spheres and how they end up one level and the next level and the next level and the next level, and he's telling you very, very, very deep stuff into that. I should put that out, but again, it's just one of those things that's out there unlisted, and at some point I will probably not put them out as a series, but just make them available through some form of join up and see them, because I have to start putting this all out. I'll never get it all into a book in my lifetime. I'm off on a whole other tangent right now of going, oh, well, I think the America Codes is the most important thing that I can be focusing on. And there's all this other stuff that it stands alone, but it's not. It's part of the overall picture. But I'm glad you brought that up. It's the Kaboctahedron, and a whole bunch of other stuff. He's really referencing how his work is carrying on from that of Da Vinci, and he times it to be precisely in a timeline with when Da Vinci died. So you kind of can imagine that they're recognizing, well, we're in the same club. You know, we're all developing the same truth and showing it in different ways, as of course is as it should be. Right? Mozart wrote it into the Magic Flute. Debussy was a grandmaster Freemason. They hide it in the music. They hide it in the art. They hide it in sculpture. Michelangelo's. I mean, it's everywhere. Anybody that's at all turned on to the ultimate truth is going to say, "Hey, I'm going to show it through my particular lens." So I'm glad you mentioned that. That is a big one, actually. I should put that out somehow because it's bloody huge. He supposedly wrote it in 12 days. At least he tells you at the end of it that he wrote the whole thing in 12 days, right? But you know that's got to be the result of several years of it gestating, right? And unless, right, maybe just went, okay, just downloaded it all, you know. But it's very significant, the fact that he tells you the exact date that he started it and the date he ended it, and it's all really another superior code. The man really obviously had no life. He had time on his hands. But it's known, you know, it's known that was his life. He spent 18 hours a day studying from being a kid, you know. That was
living in high places in multiple levels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Real quickly on the chess thing, one of the things that's... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask about the rainbow over your eyes. How does that, is that a thing?
Oh, it's a video filter I thought was fun, that's all. On Zoom.
Okay.
So chess is this ancient game, and it features heavily in a lot of like Templar, Freemason, Rosicrucian symbolism, and their fascination with it.
I don't mean to, it's an absolutely central aspect of Under a Shakespeare Moon, which I've just sent you.
Oh, really?
Don't get into it yet
I haven't read it yet.
In those first chapters, but it's utterly central. Go on.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to continue. But
well, in that case, I'd have to tell you the whole book, and
sure.
I mean, I'll go on.
They'll
forever.
spoil it.
Yeah.
And you were going to send 10 chapters, but you sent the whole book so far.
I sent 24 instead. Yeah.
Is that the whole book?
Oh, so far, but it's. I just felt I couldn't figure out where to cut it off. It's like, oh,
24 is a good number.
The next part, the next part, the next part. Yeah, it's a cool thing. I'll tell you how it happened. I'd been on the Shakespeare work for just 2 years. I started the Shakespeare journey in 2004, and at first I thought I was just going to write it as a musical. I had no idea where it was going. Oh, this is interesting. It's a mystery. I'll write it as a musical. So I did a lot of research and started to write it as a musical. After a while, my friends were saying, "Oh, please don't make it a musical. Don't break into song. You know, you have to write it as, it has to be a movie. Write it as a novel and write it as a story." You know, I got very, very, very sick then in the winter of 2006 with bronchitis, and spent Christmas alone and a very, very high fever. And during the 4 days of absolute complete. I thought I might die because I was really, really so ill. This entire thing was downloaded to me, and after 4 days, when my fever broke, I was surrounded by stacks and stacks of legal pads in which I just scribbled out this entire story, and loads of tapes in which I dictated it, and the whole story was given to me. I think I say that in the introduction, in the PDFs that I've sent anyway. And I had no idea. I thought, wow, what was that? I mean, it was great. It was like being shown an entire finished story, but all I had to do was put the words in the right order, which, as we all know, can be a long job. But that's how it came, and I really want to finish it, but I put it all on hold once I started getting the real codes. So I'm looking forward to everyone's input on that. Give me your input, what you think, how you think it's going, because it'll kick me up the arse a bit and make me get down to finishing it, because it's very close to finishing. I know the whole story. I just have to write it.
I think the all your work is quite wonderful. I was regarding like another. You said you have a lot of unreleased content and things. Perhaps you could set up a Patreon or something like that, or do another kind of thing like this where you periodically release a video, but maybe not on such a tight schedule.
That would be a good idea. I've thought of that, and I haven't really. I just haven't had any spare time to think deeply about how to do that. But if there was an interest amongst all of you and others, yes, I would probably do that. It has to get out somehow, otherwise I won't ever get around to it. And I'm not, like I say, I don't. It would be a couple of years' work to pull it together and say, well, how that fits this. So I think I just throw it all out and let people see it, because it's at least about 50 or 60 videos online that are just no one's ever seen, and I'm like, I don't know where this fits yet. And now I'm off on this other. It's not a tangent at all, but yeah, I think the most important thing that I can do is, in terms of investing deep time into curating it together, is the America Codes and the possible theatrical production about Ben Franklin's life.
And you've already made that, and you could put that on Patreon to start. I'm sure a number of us would be interested in just whatever. Well, as periodically you put unreleased content, like on YouTube Unlisted, and you put it on the Patreon members only kind of thing.
It's a good
idea.
You
could have the America Codes there for people who haven't already purchased it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, of course, I promised it to you guys first, so that you would all get it before the election. And so I wouldn't want people to feel pissed off that, well, I paid $111 for this, and now it's available on Patreon for 10
You
months.
could do the first 3 to 5, or you know.
But I have to get it out there. It's more important that it reaches a bigger and a growing audience, obviously. So yeah, thanks for suggesting that. I will look into that. We have a very small team. I don't have people. I don't have a webmaster, or somebody who can go, oh, well, you do this, you do that, you do that. So it takes a while, but doing the best I can.
You can just put a link in a short message, and that's all you have to do. It's kind of like a post.
Well, do you want to write to me and let me know how to do it? Because
I'd love to help.
Would you? That would be great.
Yeah, honestly, I think it would be helpful for a lot of us as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, it's not that I'm utterly ignorant of how. Well, I am. I am utterly ignorant of how it holds together. I know it exists, but I in order to put the time into it and say, well, how do you? I don't know. How do you?
It's initially a little daunting sometimes with some of these interfaces.
Yeah. No, as I say, we're a small team. Katie's on the team, Wendy Weir's on the team, and one other person kind of does posting for me on Instagram, etc. It's not. He's a proxy, It's not that it's not me. He makes sure that it's in line with what I'm saying, but I just don't have time to do it myself. He just goes.
So many hours.
So I just send him a bunch of stuff and then just keeps on posting them. But if you asked me to do it, I'd be hopeless, you know. Well, I wouldn't have time to do the rest of it. We just wouldn't have time. It's
Right.
a full-time job covering all that stuff, right?
Well, thank
All
you
right,
very
let's
much.
have another couple of questions, see where we are. I don't mean couple. It's okay. We can go on for as long as you want, but who's next? Thanks, Asterios. What is your name? Your actual name? Asterios? You wanna tell it?
I usually go by Stare, short for Asterios, or
Okay. Right.
Paul is fine if you don't like that. But Paul makes it
Okay.
confusing when there's many Pauls.
All right, it is true. Darius, take your hand down if you've already asked your question. Then we have a clearer understanding of who's still in line, unless you've got another question. But if you would, I'll ask you to unmute as well. There we go. Bob, you seem to be next. Go ahead.
Hey, well, I know we were doing questions, but I just have a lot to say, so if I could just rant for a little bit.
I don't mind that. If it's a long rant, you want to take the last spot then, out of respect to the others who have some questions? It's fine. I mean, it's fine. But if you're telling us up front it's going to be a long rant, well, let's have Christopher and Arturo and Blake go first, and then you give us your rant.
That sounds good.
Yep, it's fine. I'm not against ranting. I do a bit of it myself.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just thought how you were mentioning that how people can help to write letters to Joe Rogan and other people. And I think that you're going to be able to get a lot more consistency with these efforts from people if we start a group. So like either a Telegram group or a group somewhere, and someone can be in charge a little bit of making sure that we are making these things. Because I think there's a lot of passion it's a small group compared to the followers you might have someday, but I think that even this small group can go a long way if we start now starting to make these moves. I myself, and I'm sure many people here, would love to get that going, but I think you kind of gotta pull the whip out and make sure people are remembering to do this in a week from now. And so I think a group would be great.
That's exactly what I need, and what I just was saying anyway to Asterios is like, you know, we're a small team and we don't have I don't have the time and to pull all of that together. And you're absolutely right. So if there's an enthusiasm to do that, I'm absolutely all for it. If you want to take that on and say you will organize a group,
what I'll do is I'll
Or if you
remember
want
to
to-
send you I'll send you an email to remind you, and I think someone in your team needs to strategically think whether to use Telegram or WhatsApp or whichever.
Sure,
And you just
yes.
send a quick email, and
Okay.
maybe one or two people, and I'd be glad to help. I'll send you an email this week.
That is deeply appreciated. I mean, that's the sort of active action I need from people. Yeah, it's just that's what would help. These are all good ideas. We know they're all possible and sitting out there, but I don't have the time to pull it together, nor the expertise in that area to pull it together. So if you could help in that way, and that would be great. So write to me at alan@tobeornottobe.org, and you might have already had communication from Wendy Weir, who has been sort of an intermediary for me. She's the director of the Shakespeare Foundation. If you have hers, but if you don't have her address, write to me anyway, and I'll just pass it on to her, and then she'll start communicating with you.
Will do.
Thank you very much, Arturo. That's great. Blake, what you got?
Hey, yeah, so I have a question after this, but one thing I do want to bring up is that, and I put the link to this in the chat. It's a video by Trump. It's freaking bonkers, but he's going to be doing part of his new thing. He's going to be doing it's called the Salute to America 250. And it's going to be like a World's Fair type of event starting Memorial Day next year. And it's going to be in Iowa. And there's parts of it that are going to be across the United States. But this is one of those bullshit promises that, both sides were not a good choice, but the squares and what you discovered kind of pointed to, hey, Trump, Harris, T or H. Well, this is the T. We're going for the T. And this is something that you could directly benefit, Alan, because it's going to be a World's Fair about the promise of the United States. And he's going to invite everybody from across the world. If you go into his, that if you watch that video, there's 5 bullet points, with the 6th one being everybody praying for the United States. And there's no finger pointing. There's no race, creed, color. I mean, it's all positive. And I guess he put this out, and I tweeted this, and also, mentioned this. If you check your Twitter feed, you'll see something in there where I punched this into you. But
Never check my Twitter feed. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. When have you had time? When you're.
I think.
But this could be.
Just write to me the normal way with a carrier pigeon.
Right, but this event is going to last 16 months. It's going to go from Memorial Day 2025 all the way to July 4th, 2026, which accumulates the 250th birthday, 1776, 2026. And
that's right. That's exactly where we need to be.
What you are doing, and you could have a booth there and freaking charge people and freaking make money and do all kinds of things. I'd love to brainstorm about it with you. I'm going to start getting aggressive on Twitter and start trying to get people interested in this, because this is positive stuff that puts people to work. We're going to have to build this thing. And Trump says, if we build, we will come, or the world will come. And it's just an amazing video, and the potential for it is almost as mind-blowing as what you've revealed here. So it's that I wanted to make everybody aware of that. This is something that can be on top of the groups. But what you have uncovered fits into the mission of what they are trying to do with this, campaign promise. It's like
all right. That sounds absolutely great. Yes. Thanks for drawing my attention to it. So I have one question back at you for that. I'm looking at the chat right now. When we close this thing, is the chat saved? Can I see all this, or do I need to do something to make sure I don't lose all these links?
You need to go up to the 3 dots up at the top, and it says Save Chats. It's right above.
I got it. Thank you. I'm good with codes.
Look, everybody. I mean, this community is amazing. We've got so much potential behind Alan. This is great.
Thank you. Thank you. Really, yeah, that's great. Okay, I will do that. I will save the chat for sure. Great, because there's a load of stuff on there that I didn't see any of it as it was coming in, of course. Okay, thank you. Christopher.
Yeah. Well, Blake, I totally agree. That's a great idea. That totally fits in with the World Fair idea. And Alan, I was curious if you have had any clues on what happened to this lineage that passed on through John Dee and the whole Shakespeare thing and the founding fathers and that transfer of information, and if there's any clues that it's still around or what happened to it or anything along those lines. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's something that how to approach this. I know who, let's see. Yogananda has said himself during his incarnation on Earth that he was Shakespeare, but he said it's not something that we talk about, it's a circus and we don't want to go there, right? So that's Paramahansa Yogananda was Edward de Vere. So then the automatic thought is, well, who did he end up being if he, if he's so connected to this, he must have come back and incarnated during and been one of the founding fathers maybe, right? So that's an open-ended question. I don't know who he was, but I do know that he was able to veer. And that's an ascended master, right? Of course, it has to be an ascended master to be doing this. It appears that John Dee incarnated as Ben Franklin. I think there's not much question about that. Who was he later? Open-ended question. Lots of people have asked me who I was, blah, blah, blah. You know, you must have been involved in this. And I do know who I was, but I don't talk about it because I think it's a distraction, and it really, truly is ultimately irrelevant at a certain level, because they're still missing the point. You know, we are the one. You can get so lost in that. I mean, in the time that I've been doing this, even over the past, since I've been doing more public talks, I've met 17 De Vere's, 19 John Dee's, 27 Joan of Arc's, and a partridge in a pear tree. I mean, nobody wants to come and say they were, you know, nobody comes back from a session and says, I found out I was an obscure plumber in Afghanistan. You know, no, you were Genghis Khan. It's just the nature of, I want to be important, right?
Yeah, always. Yeah.
And the truth is, we are. I mean, the truth of it is, yes, you are the most high. More can you want? You know, you are it. But in the overall scheme of this tapestry of incarnations, well, you know, do the math. The thing that I commented on before about there's no end. You know, I wrote that song about it. There's no end, right? There's no end going forward that way, but there's no end that way either. Which means we all already have been everything we possibly can imagine. That's a mind blower, right? We've been the worst despotic tyrant and the greatest saint and the whole shebang. You have to be. It's not mathematically, it's impossible for you not to have, if this is a dream factory, which it is, to satisfy your every wish and everything that you ever want to do, you've already done it. And you will again in the future, until you stop the play and say, I'm done with that. I am that I am. Now my job is the Bodhisattva vow. I will come back and come back and come back and come back so long as one stray brother or sister is still in delusion. That's what the Dalai Lama does. It's what Yogananda said he would do the same thing. He wrote a poem saying, I will come back if need be 1 trillion times so long as one stray soul is still waiting in delusion. That's the vow, because you can't get home and then say, hey, fuck everybody else. I'm great. I landed. And you go, oh, well, the rest of me is still out there. It's not. Right. So mathematically, it's that. So, so why did I get on that tangent? Oh, just because, yes, ultimately, it's a distraction. I have thought a lot about who really, what is this Saint Germain? You know, a lot of people that I know think, again, not necessarily with any evidence to support it, that he's the reincarnation of Francis Bacon. How do we know? You know, I don't know. If I knew, I would talk about it. I don't try not to talk about anything that I absolutely don't know about, because I think it's important to be, you know, you make one mistake in this and all the freaking trolls are going to come out of the woodwork and say, oh, there's a mistake there. So everything he said is wrong, rubbish, you know. And I can't tell you how many people were, at the first, when I did the Sonnets geometry thing, I would get trolls writing, yeah. Oh, of course, you stupid idiot. You put enough lines on a piece of paper. No, put enough dots on a piece of paper, you're going to get triangles. Yeah, okay. And by the way, the earth is flat. Boom. I've had that. You know, I used to get upset about it. It was like, Oh no, please understand. You missed it. It's right triangles, but what's the point? All they want is attention, start a conversation. That's it. Oh man. Then you're deep down that, it's no point in even bothering. So I literally stick to stuff that I know I can prove. So I don't know. I've just told you what I know. That the saint known as Yogananda incarnated as Shakespeare, as Edward de Vere. He told his closest disciples that, and he said, but we don't talk about it. It was necessary to know about it. He quotes Shakespeare about 500 times in his books and his works, But who he was when he came back into the American Revolutionary time, I don't know. He also said that Sri Yukteswar, his guru, was George Washington. So you've got Yogananda and Sri Yukteswar, and you've got Babaji. They're all in on this. They're obviously going to come back and play serious roles in continuing the work of what they literally started. Literally, they were the movers and shakers, saying we've got to go over and colonize America now. And Bacon is writing The New Atlantis. And like I said earlier, he published it 150 years to the day before the Declaration. So they're all in on it, and it's a motley crew, a very happy team. I think we just rest assured that it's in good hands, and
yeah.
As Shakespeare says, the truth will out. It's coming out. It'll come out. It's that's why it was encoded. That's why it's written this way, and it'll come out.
Right.
Thanks, Christopher.
Yeah. Well, one more thing. Have you reached out to Aubrey Marcus at all? I feel like that is a great fit for you to get more eyes on this work.
Funnily enough, I know his wife because she was on an Egypt tour that I was on. He was not on it. But no, I haven't reached out. Again, I'm slow in that area, and I know that now is the time to begin that. So again, if anybody has, I guess, if you have a close connection where you can write to that person in particular, I guess, since I just said it, I know his wife. I can't think of her name right now, but I know we sort of hit it off when we were on the Egypt tour.
It's Vailana, I think. Vailana.
That's right, Vailana. You're right, yeah. And she was very unassuming and very nice. It was like I didn't know what to expect because I knew her husband was a big deal kind of thing, But she was very down to earth. So, all right, I'll make a note of that. I should contact her.
Yeah.
Vailana. Yeah. Okay.
There's a number of people on that. If you want to reach out to a number at once, I was thinking Danny Jones. You have.
I can't see who's talking. Sorry, who's talking?
Oh, this is Stair again. Sorry, I just wanted to. I'll write it in chat.
Okay, sorry. I still didn't get the name. Okay.
Stair again. Oh, that's all right.
Andreas.
Yeah, I was wondering if I could speak briefly before I have to leave the chat. There's a couple things I wanted to mention and just see if anyone else saw these or sees any connections that I haven't noticed. And excuse me, I've written down right here. One was with the Freemason code of IAOM, which of course reversed becomes MOAI. And also, I did notice this right away. I thought it was interesting. It has AI in it, as in artificial intelligence. But then I also noticed that it's almost exactly the same as the genetic or the how harming is described. Harming is used. It's necessary for ayahuasca for us to for DMT to be orally active. You need harmine, and it's called a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which when you create, so the acronym for is it MAOI. OI,
Right, yeah.
which I thought was, yeah, I thought was very interesting, considering DMT being linked to this Freemasonic code and how that may be
Yeah,
pertinent.
there is a connection. John Dee's associate, Edward Kelly, who was his scryer, who today we would call a medium, right? John Dee himself was not clairvoyant. He needed a medium, and Edward Kelly was the one, and he was the one who was sort of a bit of a shady character and unscrupulous and brought a lot of disrepute to John Dee's work, John Dee was a very, very devout and sincere person whose only interest truly was to reach the angels and be a conduit, a connection between human and divine. But Edward Kelly was using, and that's in the diaries that he actually said one day, "Oh, I forgot my drugs today," and the angels admonish him and say, "Well, you know, what do you think we're all here for?" You know, so he was using something to help himself, and I believe what it was called Cassie, which is a plant that has the highest concentration of DMT in it. And that's in the codes as well. Again, I've done a lot of work on that, but again, it's an unlisted thing online on my podcast YouTube channel. So it's pretty much known that although Edward Kelly certainly had talents, he was an intuitive, but he was using plant medicine to augment that. And then I read a couple of books that really went down the rabbit hole on that. Vermilion, I forget the full title of the book, but the guy writes this book about, the name Vermilion is in the title. And that was another name for this plant, Cassie.
Is that Vermilion?
Like BER and million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that Phyllis A. Whitney? Is that the author?
No.
Or are you talking about Angels in Vermilion? P.D.
Angels
Newman?
in Vermilion, that's the title.
Okay, awesome. I'll look that up. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very, very deep book. It's very, very good, and it goes into the fact that there's probably, and again, I don't want to say something that will be taken wrong or cause some disrepute. His opinion is that there's a lot of plant medicine used by by certain Freemasonic lodges. Yes. I have no idea if that's true or not. I'm not a Freemason, but that it seems there's a connection there that possibly would have been hidden if that were the case. So all of that is kind of interesting. I had never done any of that myself. I mean, in my rock and roll days, obviously I did mushrooms and a bit of acid and smoked a lot of dope. But once I found Kriya Yoga, I didn't have no need for any of that. Kriya Yoga can take you there. So years and years later, I end up on an Egypt trip. And 3 ladies approached me, who I call the 3 witches, because they were self-confessed witches anyway. And they said, "Yeah, we're witches." Yeah. So I mean, "Oh, it's Macbeth, right?" And they said, "We love your work, Alan. We love it, and the John Dee stuff's amazing. Blah blah blah. You have to come do ayahuasca with us." I said, "Well, no, I don't, but." Could still be friends, you know. I'm good. I mean, it kept on and on and on, you know. It's like and then they eventually downgraded it to DMT. You got to do DMT with it. I don't know what that. I didn't know what that was. And then it was Toad. Is it? Yeah, Toad. Which is the DMT direct from the Toad. Yeah. So I'm not interested, right? Because I've got Kriya Yoga and I'm fine, and I thought my drug days are over. Lo and behold, I get home from the trip And the first meditation I have, I hear my guru say, yes, do the DMT once, just to experience it.
Mm.
Well, didn't expect that. See,
Did you do it? Did you do DMT?
Yeah, I did Toad.
With the three witches?
I did Toad, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And yes, it was the one of, yeah, I mean, I can get into that state from with Kriya Yoga, but this is like, this is a rocket ship. You're there instantly, right?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. But it was a beautiful experience. It was absolutely very, very enlightening. And I understand why my guru told me to do it, because I had to learn something from it. And it was a fascinating experience. It taught me instantly what every little moment of my life had been about up until this point, and who I was, and all of that, which I knew anyway, but it was just sort of like, oh, there you go, there's the truth. Beautiful. The thing about that is I heard then that the native Indians this was in New Mexico, where they harvest the toad humanely, they kill the toads, right? They give it to their children as they turn into adults at 12 years old. Give the kids toad. Like, here, we're giving you something that will teach you who you are. And then if you want to go out and do whatever you want to do in the rest of your life, that's your business, you know?
Yeah.
But we're starting you off with this incredible experience that will show you that you are divine. You are the whole thing, actually. I guess it's different experience for everybody, depends on where you are at. But for me, it was a stunning experience of just immediately being, oh, I am that I am. Whole thing. Right there, instantly. And you go, but not just that, but just literally every moment of your life, just like,
yeah.
See where this was all going? We were with you every step of the way. Every little step of the way. It was just all perfect. So I'm not advising it. I'm not advocating it. Let me make that clear. I'm just saying that I was led to that through three witches. But I would never have done it had I not heard from my own meditation myself that was what I needed to do, and it made sense. And once I'd done it, it was done. And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very useful experience. So yes, there's a lot of that's in there. The MOAI is very, very, very similar to the Kriya Yoga technique. It's just, slightly different order, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've forgotten what your question was now. But...
No, thank you for sharing. But I just had one more question about, because once we got deeper into the codes, I couldn't stop thinking about the delineation, and if there is any, between whether the codes, they were consciously and purposely putting the codes in, or if some of it was subconscious inspiration, and maybe even parts of the codes they weren't even aware of, but it was a higher force acting through them.
Well, I don't know how much of the series you were on or how much of this call you were on, but we pretty much covered that a lot earlier. So I about how much was divine and how much was under just man-made, if you want to say, and also the aspect of the MOAI and the IOM. So,
well, and also the question of if there's even a difference between divinely inspired.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, I said it in one of the early videos. I said we have to face this question of how much is divine and how much is man. I forget how I said it, but and then, or is there even a difference? Ultimately, difference. If once you are at the level of understanding, even if you don't have full cosmic consciousness, you do understand that you are it. Then there's no difference. You just have to be open to the guidance.
Beautiful, thank you. And before I go, I just wanted to share something that came through while you were talking about Shakespeare, and and I kind of realized this from a certain level, and I wrote this in the chat, but I just wanted to share this because I didn't even realize I was thinking this, but I said, we are all Shakespeare. Shakespeare represents a strain of wisdom from outside of time that any of us can tap into if we so choose. So I see Shakespeare as more as an archetype than an individual, similar to Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus, and they all kind of blur the lines between each other.
Did you not hear me say, you are De Vere and you are the Mask of Shakespeare? That's it.
Yes, yes. No, exactly.
Right?
And that's kind of inspired that.
I mean, that's it. We are, that's what the whole thing is about. It's not somebody stole his works and blah, blah. It's not that at all. It's a scripture. It's a different kind of scripture that could be actually proven mathematically. He was trying to show you that I can prove it mathematically. This math can be proven.
Yes.
So I can put the geographic coordinates of the Great Pyramid on the cover of the Sonnets if you want, even though nobody knows how to do longitude yet, right? And nobody, I mean, you should not know this, right? But there it is, you know, because I can access it here. And I can prove it to you that it's real. So, yeah, he's just saying, we are all the De Vere, the truth. We are all the Mask. That's about as ultimate truth as you can get. We're all in delusion. We're all wearing a mask. We enjoy wearing the mask, right? I used to enjoy being Arlen Day and trying to get a hit record, and right. We all enjoy what we're doing. I think I'm this. I think I'm that. I'm having a great time, or you're having a horrible time, or whatever. It's a role, and you're playing it. Take the mask off. It's, you know, you're just God assigned a role. Go play it. Do the best you can.
Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you all for the inspiration. Love you all so much, and God bless everyone.
Thank you, Andreas. Tatiana.
Hello, hear me?
Yeah, hear you, yeah.
I'm from Croatia. I agree with Andreas that we are all Shakespeare, because synchronicity brought me here, because maybe 20 or more years ago, I had a dream where I saw on paper written my name, and it was written Tatiana Shakespeare. So, and I was wondering why this was written, because Tatiana was my current name, and why this family name appears written in my dream.
Yeah.
So that is, and I was following synchronicity and appear here.
What did you take that to mean at the time? Did you understand it, and did you then get interested in Shakespeare, or were you?
No, I just was following some, synchronicity with speaking about something about Shakespeare by Robert Edward Grant. Then Matthias De Stefano introduced your vigil prayer, and I was, just following steps and appeared here.
Great. I'm so glad you came. It's lovely to meet you.
So I want to continue something what Christopher before asked about lineage. You spoke that you mentioned before that Benjamin Franklin wrote his epitaph when he was 22 years old. And
supposedly, let's just say he said he did.
Yes.
But I don't believe he wrote it when he was 22, but go on.
I sent you email about my research about number 22 and dates. So during this conversation today, when I was listening some participants, it came to my mind that this number 22, Benjamin Franklin left to us as a key of a path from old to new Atlantis, because it contains different levels that we have to follow, like some part of technology of programming incarnations, and some levels of our path or through 22 dimensions go back to unity. And it's important that we, through this path, we follow or try to achieve our personal mission and some great mission.
Okay, I think I answered your question. I tried to answer everyone's questions somewhat online and said, please get back to me. Did I not? Did I not answer you?
No, not yet.
I'm sorry for missing it. I tried to keep up with all of it, but if you slip through the cracks, my apologies.
Because I noticed that some very important persons, like George Washington, was born on 22nd of February, and a lot of important things happened on that day, and also on 22nd of October, which is connected with being born and of divination. So, and many other things. This is actually what I started to do research after my trip to Egypt. So I concluded that this is actually some what is left from Atlantis, and what was like a key with or some puzzle that we need to also decode.
I'd really like you to write to me about it and make sure I will see it now. I mean, I'm less stressed now. I was completely...
Okay, I can resend you again. Okay.
When I was completely exhausted, and I'm sure it's up there somewhere, but it's probably lost in the whole slew of emails.
Yeah.
So send it to me again, please, Tatiana, and we'll communicate about it, okay?
Okay, thanks. And I'm glad that you are coming next year to Croatia.
Well, I hope so. That's the idea has just been floated by this company that runs the cruise, and they have to get an answer by, I think, January 1st, where people do actually sign up. Otherwise, we can't hold the cruise. So it's something that I said, sure, let's just go for it and see if enough people are interested to do it. If you are, please. Go ahead. You don't lose your deposit if the cruise doesn't happen. Obviously, it's just refunded. But the organizers of it have to say, well, we got a certain number of people. We've got enough to put the deposit down on the boat. It will happen. I'm looking forward to it. It will be a really great way to communicate on a much more personal, deeper level for a whole week. You know, it'll be terrific. But someone else is organizing that for me, and again, I don't even know what the status of it is at the moment as to whether or not we've got any people signing up or not. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But if we're there, it would be great to see you.
Okay.
Thank you. Philip. You need to unmute yourself. You're muted. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, how about now?
Got it.
Good. I'm sorry, I have to apologize. I got a sore throat, so my voice is very weak. Can you hear me?
We can hear you clearly. Yeah, that's okay. Don't strain. Just.
I was inspired to raise my hand because of you mentioned Mark Rylance.
Yeah.
So I presume you're going to the conference next weekend in London. Yeah. Okay, I'll see you there. Yes.
Oh, great.
Sure.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right. Make sure to say hello. Oh, well, I'll see you now. I know what you look like.
All right, I will. I'd love to. Yes, we've met before at the De Vere Society. When you, I was in the audience when you talked about the fourth T.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was a funny one, wasn't it? It was not very well received by the audience, but the funny thing was, Derek Jacobi was there, right? And Derek Jacobi's in the front row. And for those of you who may not know, he was really one of the most preeminent Shakespeare actors of all time. Brilliant. My favorite Hamlet of all time is Jacobi's. And so Derek Jacobi's there, and he's a patron of the De Vere Society. It was back 7 years ago, wasn't it? In England, because I know that my granddaughter was born 2 days before it happened. And it was on April 23rd, on Shakespeare's birthday, on Shakespeare's faked birthday. So, yeah, and I gave this talk, and I could tell, I mean, because there's not a lot of enthusiasm for codes within the Oxfordian Society. You know, some of them get it, some of them don't. Some of them want it, some of them don't. Please don't go into codes. We had enough trouble with Bacon codes, and we don't right. There's a lot of resistance, unless you've got the persistence and the commitment to look at it and go, yeah, this is really true. This is real. So I remember that talk very well. And what I remember most is Derek Jacobi leapt to his feet to give a standing ovation.
Yes.
And I'm looking out at the audience, and they're going, and gradually the others started to stand up. I kid you not.
Well,
it was
not
the
me.
most satisfying thing, because I thought I'd bombed. I was like,
No,
it wasn't going very
well.
well.
I don't think so. Not at all. I loved it.
Good.
I
Well,
kept
it was
taking
you and Derek
photos.
then.
Yeah.
But I'm serious. It stuck with me a lot, because it was just, ooh, this was not going like the way I wanted. I mean, sure, I could feel a lot of people did like it. I don't mean everybody, but there were a lot of people who were very resistant, and they literally looked at each other to see if it was okay to stand up. But they couldn't not, because their patron, Sir Derek Jacobi, was standing going, whoa! And I went,
yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sorry you felt that way. I don't think it was.
It's nice to know that, that it was not all taken that way. That's great.
I talking about Mark Rylance made me remember something, a conversation I had on Telegram with somebody who was on your last Egypt trip.
Okay.
But don't worry, we're not in the cult. Okay.
What? You're not in the cult?
I'll just place that with you.
Someone who was on the last Egypt trip.
Yes, on the Egypt trip with Robert and yourself.
Right, when I did the Begin Again in the King's Chamber. Were you there?
No, I wasn't, but my friend on Telegram was.
Oh, okay.
And we were talking about you and the altar stone, and this is a synopsis of what I wrote back on September the 3rd. Instead of hoping for change with the altar, how about changing tack to the Westminster Abbey statue where he might be buried, De Vere? As you know, unlike Stratford, it is a royal peculiar, so owned by the monarch, not the church. I know you've mentioned being a royal peculiar before. As Charles is open to New Age subjects, if Shakespearean actors approached him, he might be convinced to do some nighttime renovation works.
Like the way you think.
So we might find De Vere DNA.
You know, a lot of what Alexander Ward did. A lot of what Alexander Ward did was really brilliant. I must admit, I don't totally agree with him on that particular assessment that he's buried there. But that doesn't mean I don't. I mean, well, I'm just saying I don't agree for various other reasons. But it doesn't mean that I'm right and he's wrong, and it's so it's a possibility. I don't think it's not a question of shifting tack and saying let's look there.
No,
I don't have enough.
Just a different road in.
Yeah, I mean, route. I couldn't get 100% behind it if I don't feel as though it's really true. And again, I don't ever want to put something forward that I can't absolutely prove. So to put a lot of investment into that and say to the king, you know, you should do this, even if I had access, and considering his health state right now is probably a bit iffy anyway. I can't think that there's one on his list of things to do. I think he's just concentrating on surviving. But God bless him, you know, but I don't know. It's a good thought.
It's just such a shame.
Sorry, go ahead.
because it's such a shame because the three dots are in alignment. There's you with your knowledge. There's the fact that the property is not owned by a church who is always going to block you, but it's
Yes.
owned by a monarch who is also open to the idea. I'm
Well,
sure he would be.
let's have lunch or something when I'm over there. I'm sure we'll meet up while we're there on the 17th, which is what? Is it a
Okay.
week?
Next Sunday, week
Wow.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay. Well, that's great. I look forward to seeing you there in person. That's great. Do you know Mark? Do you know Mark Rylance?
No, I'm just in the audience, always in the audience.
Okay. All right.
I'm not on the inner circle.
Look, it's not, yeah, okay, yeah. It's not an inner circle. It's just, well, I guess it is. It's who you know. We're not like buddies or anything, but he has been gracious enough to recommend my work, and we've met about 3 times. So I'm hoping to have some time with him, but we'll see how it goes. But that's great. I'm glad I'll meet you there.
Right. Lovely. Nice to speak with you.
Thank you, Philip.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Terry. And then we've got a rant from Bob.
I wanted to personally thank you. It was divinely timed in how I found you and True Matthias and Gaia and that. I really enjoyed the series. And I just wanted to say that the way you described the set Isis Osiris in the 22 really resonated with me. It's like I heard it in a different way or a clearer way. I really liked it. And all the little, you're very talented on putting all these things together and the synchronicity of the songs and all that. And I just wanted to personally acknowledge you.
Very much. Yeah. Thank you. Really. All right. Where are you?
I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, okay. Well, if I ever want to lose all my money, I'll come and see you.
I was when you I was in an Egyptian exhibit in LA with Akhenaten, and 22 years later I was in Egypt, not knowing that I was going to be there. It just happened. It was very magical. And
years later. Okay. All right. Thank you, Terry. That's great. Does anybody else want to speak up before we hear what Bob has to say? Because he did warn us it's a mouthful, which is fine. Anybody else who I haven't heard from? Well, it's lovely to see you all here.
You haven't heard from Brandon, I don't think.
I know, but I don't want to put him on the spot by saying, "Oh, hey, he always put his hand up." Finally, Brandon.
No, you're good. I had a smaller question. I kind of just saved it to see if it would get self-answered throughout the process, but there are other mistakes in the declaration, like like a T not being crossed, lowercase t's. Like, do those come out into your?
Yeah. Well, again, if it had some deep significance where it was then in the grid, I think I looked at. I mean, I'm pretty thorough about looking at all of the anomalies. I'm not quite sure that you were on the same track as with that one particular one. So maybe I should look at it again. Do you know exactly where it was?
I do actually. To render it so. Sorry, I can't read it very good right now because it's small printed.
Okay, but it's next to the word render.
Yeah, it's on, like, to say, the bottom left-hand corner of the actual declaration, not in your grid.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I will have a look at it.
But yeah, and there was a couple other ones that I had noticed. I just didn't know if any of that played into any other discoveries that say you haven't released, or I've had some other questions about things that seem like they might be coded in a way, but nothing has come to light through you yet.
Well, speak about it. Speak up. Now's the time.
I get a really suspicious feeling about the amount of capital letters placed in the document
Yeah.
and the location of that, and I can't figure anything about it. But
Okay.
I thought maybe you've played with that before.
Yeah, I have. That is usually a suspicious sign, or at least it always is in Shakespeare's works, and on the monument of Shakespeare, and on the, you know, so it always shows up as being significant. So, but there are so many. I usually look at, well, is there some connection between them, and does it make an anagram, first of all, you know? And I hadn't found anything, but given that there are so many, I discarded the idea that it was a significant clue. It may well be that that I'm wrong, and that there is something there, but you know what? Why don't you do that?
I've been trying to play with it. I've been waiting for the whole series to be released, right? To kind of see, I'll let them show me first, right?
I would be happy to turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, I try it. It's consumed me a few nights, and I kind of got overwhelmed and put it to the side, and I said, let's let 22 videos go by.
I know that feeling. Yeah. Okay. Well, you're not the Brandon who has the tattoo on your arm of the Sonnets cover, are you?
Nope, I'm the Brandon that.
Okay.
I actually sent you something in the beginning of before you had released these videos.
Oh yeah.
With the synchronicities of the declaration in my artwork. I don't know if that rings a bell to you. It was basically a coded document that I created before you created all this, and it was everything is way too synchronistic.
Send it again, would you? Because I mean, honestly, again, it's not that I ignore things, but the amount of pressure that I put myself under to get all this done, inevitably a few things fell through the cracks. So please send again, and I'll have a...
Most definitely.
Yeah. No, there was a guy named Brandon who sent me a picture once, and he said, and I thought, wow, this guy really, he has tattooed on his arm the Sonnets cover with all the geometric connections on his bicep.
That's pretty cool.
That's
a cool tattoo.
That's commitment. It is.
No sonnets on my body yet, at least.
Okay.
So thank you.
Gary Hoy, we haven't heard from you. You got anything to say? You're in the background there.
I had to escape and change because I was going to a water polo match. Anyway, my grandson's playing water polo at 3:30.
All right.
Anyway, I did have a question.
Right.
The little synchronicities or actors in the background, is there any indication they were around at Lincoln's time during Civil War?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah. Just
again, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I think there's a comment somewhere in the series where I say, you know, here's Franklin saying, of the people, by the people, for the people. And I thought, is he channeling ahead to Lincoln? What is that about? It's there. It's in one of the Rota squares. Yeah, that's what it is. But I don't know. No, I can't say that I've gone down that enough to find something conclusive.
Right.
I will hop in on Lincoln. Hi again.
Hope what?
I'll just mention something about Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. Hello.
about, you wanted to mention something? I missed the last word.
About Lincoln.
Lincoln, yeah.
Yeah, so in our studies in New York, or basically while I was having like panic attacks in the city because I was receiving all this information,
Wow.
I bumped into the fact that Lincoln's funeral took place in different cities, and in New York it was like all through the Broadway Avenue that they like kind of took his coffin. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, yeah.
Okay, sorry. And so yeah, so that's like part of a whole thing, like a whole ritual with, and at that point I got really like yucked with the whole thing, so I didn't go further in. But that's my piece of info about Lincoln. That when he was dead, he was actually paraded through dead. I mean, who knows? He was paraded through the whole Broadway Avenue, which of course in the geography of New York is you have the 7th Avenue, and then you have the Broadway going like all the way in a diagonal way, and that makes like different shapes, which are very important, like the crosses in the Templars Square, and you have squares with the 7th, the 6th, the 5th Avenue. And he went all the way in that parade.
You said a word that I'm not familiar. You said you got yucked with it. Does that mean sort of spooked or
Maybe. Yes,
Yeah.
maybe it's my Spanish translating.
I just want the word meant in that in your usage of it. Yeah.
Like it was too much for me at the time. Thank you.
Susan. All right. Who is the lady named George Baker? Whose name is George? You have to unmute. You're muted.
Hi, everyone. I'm Helena. I'm the sidekick of George, who is circling, hopefully, on his audio. And I'm listening in to all of you, and I'm just typing a thank you for a formidable day. We have been, George and I have been following this breathlessly with all of you. At the same time as the Code 12, I don't know if any of you have been invested in, we're all joining dots, aren't we? We're all look at it on a subatomic particle kind of level. We're all just energy, protons, neurons, electrons swirling, passing on information and trying to make sense of it. And on that note, we're also coming from the Matthias de Stefano sort of circus and many other places. So just in all of you all, and thank you for every fragment of these, this like glittering fractals of personal information, collective information, pieces of puzzles and metaphors and analogies and coherence and questions and deeply personal and equally collective. So that's me. That's why I'm George Baker. Today I'm Helena, but I'm with George. So
thank you, Helena. Much appreciated. That's great. I'm going to ask Naomi Dolores D to say something, if you don't mind.
Yes, I didn't realize that I had my hand up, but that's okay. I would like to have some information about the economic, well, how do you pronounce it? Enochian tables, and how you use that to overlay the with the codes.
Yeah, well, that's a deep one. As you know, there are 624 characters, 624 characters in each square, delivered on 624, delivered on June 24th in 1584 by the angels, John Dee, told in advance that they were going to deliver it. So it's one of the first things that alerts you to the importance of 624. Then you start seeing it elsewhere on the structure of the monument. The THs on the monument, THs and the Ms are in a 624 pattern. lines in the sonnets are 6, 2, 4 lines. You count the 6th word, 2nd word, 4th word, etc. It says these sonnets all by E. Vere, the 4th T. You know, and it becomes obvious that this is an absolute, this is central to the codes. How you use it as it were, as a Rosetta Stone, is that a lot of the major speeches in Shakespeare, and I would say specifically that I have not used it or seen it appropriate to use in the America codes yet. I haven't seen it. But in all the Shakespeare codes, there are so many hints in the first folio, in key speeches in the plays, that are 624 characters.
So how do you make the alignment?
Well, say a speech has 624 characters in it. You just say, okay, I'm going to put them into a grid that exactly mimics the 624 of the Enochian tables, right?
Okay.
You need to know what the key is. And the key is, if you've been on this work for some time, you would know that initially the key, well, the first thing that I did was put the sonnet's dedication and the monument and the gravestone added together is all 624 characters. And so you overlay it over the grid. Well, you've got to know what the key is, and the key is double T. The key is the TT. Wherever there's a double T together, that points to letters in the Enochian tables. So that's how you get, so the reason the TT is the key is because the sonnet's dedication says, you know, to the only begetter of these ensuing sonnets, Mr. WH, etc., etc. It comes all the way down, and at the bottom it's signed TT, which is supposed to be.
So do you think in the America codes then that the double T's, the two T's that are double crossed, could that be a place where you might link them?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's just that it doesn't match 624, so you couldn't overlay it on the Enochian tables with any confidence that it was going to give you something unless 624 divided evenly into 6771 characters, which it doesn't. So there doesn't seem to be a direct connection there. Like, for instance, in the King James Bible, on the very cover of the King James Bible, all the text on that is 312 characters, which is exactly half of 624. So that's how I was able to decode the King James Bible part. It's half of it, and then you just mirror image it and flip it around the way you do with the sonnets solution. So good question, but I don't see any direct analogy yet. Maybe once I've had a bit of a breather and I've got enough energy to go and look at it again, I'll write to you and say, hey, thanks a lot.
Okay. Well,
thanks
on another note,
down that rabbit hole.
right. On another note, how I found you was very synchronicity also. I was looking at somebody else on Playlr, and your decoding Shakespeare from Gaia came up. So I went to Gaia, watched Robert Grant's stuff on the Codex, and then wound up spending hours on your website and your YouTube channel things. I have just really devoured it. I mean, it's been a fascinating journey, and this is all in the last 6 months.
Oh my goodness!
And so
a prize.
But the connections to me, the number 111 is part of decoding some of the solfeggio stuff, which is where mine have been. And I have found the musical scale that the solfeggio tones belong to, which nobody else apparently in all of this time has ever done it. I've known it for a long time, since about 2002, 2003, but I never could understand why that scale was so important. But I'm beginning to understand, because of Robert Grant's work, that it was that it's connected to the Giza plateau, not just the Great Pyramid, but in all of his ratios that he's found, that particular scale, those ratios show up.
Sure they do, yeah. Have you looked at the solfeggio in the two Shakespeare plays, in King Lear and Taming of the Shrew?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, because there's scenes there that are obviously to do with that. In King Lear, Edmund says, "Far so la me," after he says, "Oh, these eclipses do portend these divisions." And then he just adds for no reason at all, "Far so la me," you know. So there's
Well, the solfeggio tones cover 3 octaves. And so the first octave is the 11 by 12, the 12 notes with the increments of 11. The middle C octave is the 24 notes, divided all in increments of 11. And then the third octave, the octave above the middle C octave, there is then 48 divisions by 11.
Are you Naomi or Dolores? Which is your name?
I go by Dolores.
Okay.
But I put Naomi in there because of the O-M-A-O-M-I.
Oh, I got it. A-O-M-I. I see. Well, Dolores, you know your stuff. That's good. You want to write to me and let me know where I can see some of your work? Is it online? Or are you
No,
just
it's not. I have done
fun?
PowerPoint presentations and stuff, but none of it's online. No.
Okay. Sounds like it should be, because you're on the right track with a lot of it.
Okay, well, I know that I'm supposed to write a book. I've been told that. I was told
get
that
on
years
with it,
ago.
would you?
Get on. Well, when I come to the exact conclusion of why that scale is so important, I will. But I'm still, I have a feeling.
Oh, it's so important because, well, okay, go ahead. You have a feeling up.
I have a feeling that that scale will activate the stuff at the Giza Plateau.
Well, you're spot on, really. I mean, there's an obvious connection, and the work that Robert and I did together on how the intervals are, reflected in the various geometric proportions of Khufu and Khafre and Menkori is part of it. Yeah. Goodness grief, what's holding you? Write your book.
I don't know. It's just putting yourself out there, I think, because I'm a very private person.
Okay.
So it's just
you won't breathe a word.
Okay.
Don't tell anybody. You've cracked the solfeggio code, but I think you should probably do something with it.
I'm going now. Then what were the two? It was
King Lear and Taming of the Shrew.
Taming of the Shrew. Okay.
Yeah, in Taming of the Shrew, there's a whole scene of a music lesson with Bianca, and her music teacher Hortensio is teaching her to play the lute, and he sings the gamut to her from the lowest note. And it's all got a sort of a sexual innuendo to it, because they're all trying to get in her knickers, of course. But the point is, it's a code. And
that's right. It's all codes. It's all codes.
Codes all the way up, all the way down. All right. Well, I think we're ready to sit back and be ranted to, except I just want to introduce my dear friend Cisco down in the bottom left-hand corner here, who's a mighty, mighty source and help to me. He's been a friend for a long time. Do you want to say anything? Do you want to say hi to everybody, Cisco? You
Hey
need to
guys, is it working?
Yep. Got you. We heard you for a moment. Now you've muted yourself again. There you go.
Hey,
There.
Alan. Hi, everyone. Thank you. It's been really quiet for me as far as responding. These past few weeks, I've just been super busy, but I'm excited to be here with you guys. I look forward to seeing where this goes and hopefully going on this cruise with you guys next year. And catching up with Alan, because I've been kind of out of it for the past couple of months here, it seems like, but looking forward to it. And thank you guys. Appreciate you, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you, Cisco. Looking forward to seeing you again soon. Hopefully in New York for that concert. That would be great.
I would love that.
All right. Well, to all of you, I want to thank you for this has been a long session. Where are we? 2:37. Well, it's only been 4.5 hours. So I had a feeling it might be. That's all good. It's great. You mean the world to me. You, it touches me deeply that this is finally finding receptive hearts. Because after, working in seclusion for so long, it had to be that long. I had to know the ins and outs of the Shakespeare story as deeply as I could before I could even leap to this connection, because you never would. I mean, once you get past the first level, what does it mean if you say, oh, this mistake leads to something that's a cross that says D? Who's D? I don't know. And the other one leads to a cross that says E. Who's E there? Yeah, it all worked out in the order in which it was supposed to, and that's just the way it is. But thank you. You've been thanking me. I'm thanking you from my heart. It's the level of support and your kind words of encouragement. You don't know how much that helps. And I'm going to look forward to getting a group together. Arturo suggested. It's just a great idea, and I'm deeply grateful for the help in that aspect. Of course, I see that Bono is on, but I don't know if he's. Don't know if you can all see his picture here. I think that's just a screen for Esculentum. Are you coming on to say something? Esculentum? No, he's kind of hiding. Well, she's kind of hiding. No.
Quote from Bono, who said he's going to drive his car off a cliff if Trump gets elected.
Oh, don't do that. No. Come on, you've got more stamina than that. Get over it. Keep working the way you've been working. All right. So it's all down to Bob to close us out. Serious thank you. I can't entirely put it into words how much you kept me going, and will still do. And there's more to come, I know. Thanks. Bob, rant away.
Well, first, let me ask a very quick question. You were just discussing the Enochian table. So there are 3 texts, right? You're putting together 3 texts. Was it obvious to you to put them in a particular order? Because there's 6 different possible orderings. Would it just come together quickly, or did you work to try to figure out the order?
Sure, yeah. I explained that in the book. Have you got the book Decoding Shakespeare?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so, but it's there. I'm not giving a pitch to like buy it, but it's in there. Because there is a specific, there are clues to let you know what's the right way to put it together. And it's simply this, really. You've got 6 lines, 2 lines, 4 lines in the sonnets, dedication. You've got in the monument, you got 2 lines of Latin, 4 lines of English, and then 2 lines of English in the obituary date at the bottom. In the gravestone, you've just got 4 lines. So you want it to make sense that it goes,
6 to 4.
6 to 4 to 4. No, sorry.
It starts with 6 and ends with 4.
No. I do know this. I can find it. It's literally, if you do the sonnets first, the monument second, and the gravestone next, then you get 6, 2, 4, 2, 6, 2, 4, and backwards you get 4, 2, 6, 2, 4, 2, 6. So that's the obvious way to put them in. In any other way, it's not going to give you that. So it's really simple once you understand the way Dee's mind works, you know.
Right. All right, thank you. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that it was like about a year ago in some with the mathematicians with Robert Grant. I remember I listened to some of that. And so it was around the same time you started working out that I was getting deep on this the Fibonacci series and how it relates to time. I discussed this a little bit in the comments some of you might have seen from the past videos this past couple of weeks. So what I ended up figuring out, and you know, first of all, I discovered that a bunch of people have done some work on this and discovering how the zodiac is encoded in the Fibonacci sequence. And so, you know, I discovered that because I was searching online for whether other people had discovered the things that I was finding connecting the Fibonacci with time sequences.
Okay,
and so that was a huge revelation. And then, you know, so that was over the course of, you know, last year, over several months. And then just recently, right when you had been advertising these video series was about to come out, just the week prior to this whole thing starting, I had a revelation one morning that I could use this zodiac code that connects the planets to numbers and the zodiac. I could use that same, I asked the question, could that same code be used to define the sequence of the days of the week? So the days of the week are in a sequence of planets. Sunday and Monday, obviously sun and moon, and then Tuesday is Mars, Wednesday is Mercury, etc. And so I went home and I played with the numbers, and I very quickly discovered that there is a pattern and the planets fit in with Fibonacci. And ultimately, after, you know, doing over the past, well, it's just been a couple of months, I've been finding this. And what I discovered is that it's really the first 7 prime numbers tie in perfectly with the 7 celestial. So sun and moon are 3 and 11. And Saturn is number 17, the seventh prime number. And so this ties in with, you happen to find that when towards the end of the series last week, you introduced the code with the predicting this election and even mentioning Q and the QAnon phenomenon. And that whole thing has been, you know, it's been a military program. Q is a military program, and they're using the number 17 because Saturn is, you know, Saturn is time, chronos. Saturn is the timekeeper. And this is what is this force of keeping time, just like as someone mentioned earlier about, you know, set. It's been come up a couple of times, cutting into 14 pieces. This is symbolic of the week, the 14 pieces. You are cutting time from, you know, because God is time himself. Krishna says it himself in Bhagavad Gita, I am time, right? But the keeping of time, the segmenting of it, this is what Set does, right? He cuts this continuum into pieces, palatable chunks that we can digest and experience. So this is the force of Saturn. This is and Saturn has a special relationship with the sun and the moon, and the sun and moon are the symbols of the supreme masculine and the supreme feminine, God and goddess, they're really one, but they are presenting in 2 perfectly synchronistic forms. And so it's just fascinating how this all ties in perfectly with what I've been doing in this past year, especially with Q. The rise of Q, and what that whole operation is about is exposing all of the dark stuff that people bring up, like all this dark Masonic cult stuff. Well, that's Q has been exposing all of that over the past several years, starting with Jeffrey Epstein, who was arrested, a couple of years after the Q phenomenon began, and then his partner or handler rather, Ghislaine Maxwell, and now the Puff Daddy Chronicles have just begun, and so we're seeing that this, these white hat Illuminati Freemasons are actually taking actions under the divine providence of Saturn, the number 17, Q. They are they're striking down on these dark forces, and this has been in the works for hundreds of years to come to this point where we have information systems and education so that we can make people aware of what's really going on in the upper echelons of power, which was completely impossible to do in the old days. You would have a select few of highly educated polymaths who knew what was really going on, and then most people were just like, they learned basic stuff, and it was way too much to give them that kind of information. And so that's kind of a very brief summary. I've got some of these videos up. I'm still making more, but I've got some up on the YouTube channel explaining these codes with the week and the numbers and all that. So I just wanted to share.
Did you leave us a link to your YouTube channel?
Sure, yeah. Infinitely Wizardly.
Put it in the chat so that I can save it in the whole chat thing and everybody can get it. I want to ask you a question. And since you said 17 is the seventh prime, so you're not using 1 as a prime. And what would happen if you did? You see, the interesting thing to me is that
good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I have a response.
Ever since Newton decided to say that 1 over 1 0 factorial is 1, he really screwed people's minds with that, and it was part of just Newton's own attempt to, as brilliant as he was, he was trying to find the universal constant of measure, but of course he didn't know about meters, and he couldn't get accurate enough measurements of the Great Pyramid. But he was aware of what ends up being Euler number, but of course it wasn't Euler's number. So it's what I had found in the Great Pyramid of foot, cubit, meter, that the foot plus the cubit is the Euler number 2.71828. So the foot is 1, cubit is Euler minus 1, the 1.718. Well, Newton had found that, but in order to hide it from the public, because he wanted to be the one to unveil the entire thing, and he didn't, it's very clear he did not want anybody else to find it. So he invents this thing that really screws everybody up studying calculus later, about this idea of there being such a thing as 0 factorial. And people ask and say, oh, it's because Newton defined it as such. Oh, yeah. It's nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. So obviously 1 is a prime. 1 is the ultimate prime number. You can't say, it's not prime because I know there are certain reasons to not call it prime. But have you thought of what would happen if you call 1 a prime, then Saturn is out of the picture entirely?
That's part of it. But actually, the fact that 1 is the transcendental prime is part of it, because when it comes to the measure of time, there are ultimately 2 synchronistic and identical but different units, and that is the solar day and the lunar week or month, right? So we have these, so there are 1 and 1, sun and moon. Even the word sol for sun, solo means 1, and moon is an anagram of mono, they both mean one. They're one and one, but they're not. They're like it's just encoding all of this, right? Because they're God and goddess, so they are one, but they're presenting as two. And then also and then the prime number 11, which is 1 and 1, is the code for the moon. So it's all.
So what do you assess as 13 then? If we cut out Saturn, you end up with 13 is which planet?
13 is Mars. 3 and 1 add up to 4. So under mod 9, the 13 becomes 4. Yes. And then Saturn 17 under mod 9 becomes
Do you
8.
think there's something significant in that idea that, yeah, we've got this whole system of landing on Saturn being 17, which is interesting because 17, of course, is pretty significant, being 17th Earl of Oxford. But
right?
But and you do know that the sonnets published in 1609 in quarto form are known as Q. The first folio is a folio, and that's a certain size of a sheet. When you divide it into 4 and fold it, then they're printing things called quartos. But since the sonnets is published in quarto form, tiny little booklet, I'll show you, it ends up that since the sonnets are the most important and most famous quarto edition of anything of all time, it's known as Q. They call the sonnets Q.
Incredible, incredible.
And notice that we lost Q the night before the election. Quincy Jones passed.
Quincy Jones. That's amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah, he died the night before the election, so he did not have to endure that. And or at least he got to see it from a different perspective, which I'm sure was great. And all day during the election, I was hearing a song that I thought, why am I hearing this? And then I realized soon I was actually out voting. And as soon as I was at the voting booth, this song was going round and round in my head around midnight. It's a Thelonious Monk tune.
I know the one.
Right. Well, Quincy Jones is famous for having done an album called Round Midnight. And I thought, oh my God, that's so interesting, Round Midnight. And I just knew that it wasn't going to be a long drawn out process, that it was going to be a landslide, that we would get the results around midnight. And
right. Oh, we did.
And indeed we did, because that's the way the angels work with me anyway. It's like, oh, they just gave me a song, round midnight, round midnight. And I'm hearing it all day long. Oh shit, we're going to find the result. It's not going to be a drawn out thing. It's not going to be the 2000 election, which was decided by the Supreme Court. And yeah, Trump's got it, because it literally said, I mean, that's what the Declaration says. I still don't believe that the Declaration is a prophecy. It's just stating either is possible. Either is possible. It all depends how you behave.
It's stating an intention, and the world manifests according to the intentions of the living beings.
Oh, that's okay. But it's not the intentions of the founders. The founders are saying both of these are possible, but we know that the future is going to be without Biden, the Harris administration. And it says literally, he, I'll just bring it up. No, I don't want to show you. You've seen enough of it. But he's basically saying, with manly firmness, for the sole purpose, he has brought together QAnon with manly firmness for the sole purpose to be elected to prevent the Harris administration. It's clear, and right under that, without Biden. And you got Biden surrounded by all these sacred symbols of TH, Thoth, triple tau. It's really extraordinary, I mean, it really is. But on the other hand, you can read it mirror image. You can read it in backwards. You can say the Harris administration to prevent to be elected Donald Trump. with his manly firmness and blah, blah. It's just saying
Right.
these are possibilities and it's your karma. You will get, as Yogananda says, we get the politicians we deserve. It's all perfect. You get what your collective thoughts and beliefs and everything that you have manifested outwardly is going to come, and it's all perfect. So anyway, I'm not bent out of shape about it as I would have been if I didn't have that understanding, because I have my own feelings and about it, but it's not a political thing. It's just, well, that's what it is. Deal with it. But it does say it very clearly. And as soon as that, I just thought, what a weird thing. I'm a jazz musician and I love listening and love playing jazz. But that song I hadn't thought about in years. And I was just going round and round in my head, round midnight. And I went, oh, I get it. We're going to have the results at midnight. It's going to be a landslide. It's interesting.
You mentioned 2000. So get this, both 2000 and 2020 on election day, Mercury stood still. Yeah, those were the two times we didn't know the election results, and both times Mercury stood still.
On 2000, yes, and the other one was
2020 when we didn't know the election results that night.
Oh, how interesting.
Both 2000 and 2020.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it? It's
like it's all planned.
All written. Well, where are we at? Just coming up to 5 hours. Should we have a little moment of silence and thank each other and just pray in whatever way you yourself feel comfortable, to whatever God you pray to, that we understand what we are to do with this information, that we get clarity on how best to disseminate it, and ultimately to what I wouldn't want to say to what goal we want it to accomplish, because that's I believe we have to just ask for divine, for the divine to come through to us with what is the intended goal for the good of all. Because I'm not enlightened and I don't know which goal to absolutely manifest at times. I can think I do, right? I don't have that idea, but I'm always much more comfortable saying, I surrender. That's always been my more comfortable stance, is just say, I surrender to the divine will. I'll do what I can. I'll take the next step that I think is right. But if at any time I'm going wrong, just let me know and I'll shift course. Because I can manifest, we all can manifest, and we sometimes definitely manifest the things that we don't necessarily know are not necessarily the best thing for us. But I've learned to be able to control that a little bit more recently. I used to manifest like crazy and get into all kinds of trouble. So, just a moment of silence, if we will. Thank you all. Thank you. Really, it's been a real privilege to share all this with you and to get your responses back. Thank you.
Blessings.
Much love.
Blessings.
Thank you so much. Blessings.
Blessings.
Chat. Save the chat.
Thank you, Alan and everyone.
Thank you.
I hope we do it again someday.
Bye.
And let's write to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Luke around here? And
And
dark
right to,
journalist.
right to the king.
Oh, I bet Sam Tripoli would love to have you. I did an interview with him last year. He's got a good following.
Yeah. Continue your conversation with Danny Sheehan. Continue. He's really they're having congressional hearings this week, and he's the key. I'm so glad that you're talking with Danny.
Yeah, he is.
Jim Garrison, we should also get you on Ubiquity, and yeah.
We'll have a brainstorm on the group to see what are the best possible people to share this message, and we'll get that list going for Alan.
Yes.
Deeply appreciate that. Thank you for helping to organize that and for the idea of bringing it up. It means a lot. That's a great idea. Thank you. All right, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Alan.
Have safe journeys.
Thank you.